Hello. How you guys doing?
Hey,
Doing
I'm
good.
Great.
We're good.
Welcome everyone
Hey guys.
to this is the Armchair Developers Talk Show, not podcast. And this is my co-host Just Evilmon just below me, and today we have two new guests, which are MacGyver the Hero and the Slumlord. I would like to actually I want to make some introductions real quick. You guys might know a little bit about us, but I actually would like to Lee to start. Take it away.
Sure. So, hey guys, I'm Just Lee Belmont, your noble vampire hunter, and I started streaming about a year ago. Let's see, favorite streamer you mean aside from UMX, right?
Got him.
Right. My favorite streamer is probably PC Tracks. He's a really cool dude. He does a lot of Castlevania speedruns. I also play a lot of fighting games with him on the side. I started gaming when I was 1 year old. Ironically, I wound up playing Donkey Kong Country with the controller upside down at that age, and it was pretty good.
That explains everything.
Oh yeah. Favorite game? Probably have to say Shovel Knight. And
Really?
yeah, I think it's probably the single best 2D platform I've ever played.
Wow.
Surprising.
Cool. Okay, MacGyver.
All right, so I'm MacGyver the Hero. I'm a small variety streamer here, and I've been streaming here since September of 2015 when a game called Soma came out. It was the first game one of the first games I ever live streamed. I tend to like stream single player games and whatnot. As for my history with gaming, one of my first childhood games, from what I recall, was Star Fox 64 over at my babysitter's apartment because I used to be babysat. Some of my favorite games over the years have been the Sly Cooper trilogy, fantastic set of 3D platformers back from the PlayStation 2 era, and my number one games being Little Big Planet 1 and 2, just for the sake of their creative elements. Like, I loved creating things in that game. Like, even though I didn't publish too much, I still enjoyed going into that game and just playing what people have made. And since then, I've been looking for another game just like Little Big Planet, but for
Mario
PC.
Maker 2 is coming.
Yeah, but it's not on PC.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's a bit of me.
Cool. Slum.
So I am the Slumlord. I'm a variety streamer, pretty small. I've been streaming since about April last year. And I play everything from, single player games and multiplayer games. I mostly been trying to focus myself on GameCube, Game Boy Advanced, Nintendo stuff. Been playing a lot of Switch lately. All-time favorite game? That's
Thank you.
I'll say
Infamous
and Infamous 2 on the
wow.
PS3. Yeah.
Very interesting, actually.
I played the first one. It's really good.
Classic games, great power system, fucking love it. And then my current streamer I'm watching right now, I kind of go from I watch a lot of small guys. Currently I'm on Vesper right now.
Okay.
He's definitely one of my favorite streamers. Plays a lot of Splatoon and speedrunner here and there, But yeah, that's me.
Dope.
I've been playing games since early 90s. I don't know. Some of my memories is one of the neighbors that I lived across from, he had a NES. So I played Duck Hunt and just Mario. And then one of my neighbors up the road had a Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
And I played Sonic on it there. And then developed into PC, started playing StarCraft 2 and SNES. And then the first game system I got was a Game Boy Color. And by the time I had already gotten it, most of my friends had systems. And I just go over and play at their house. But
Right.
I started on the Game Boy Color, and it's been a lot of Nintendo. And now that I'm have my own income, I can just buy whatever the fuck I want at any point in time. So.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, you know me, I'm MX. I play mostly retro games. I started streaming when I actually started modding Game Boys. Actually, it was like October when in my trip back to Japan, and it just transformed. I remember Overnerds helped me set up. I was like mind blown. Like, I didn't know that. I thought everyone's running a dual PC streaming setup. But he said, no, you can do it with just your PC and whatever. And I just did it. I started doing, got a camera, and now here we are, right? Favorite streamer, I want to say all of you guys, and that's why you're here. Oh,
You're
shit.
so flattering.
Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah.
Got him.
I forgot to mention mine. I actually wanted
Yeah.
to say Vine Sauce because, and especially Vark Skeletor, like just the Vine Sauce boys, because they're just a lot of fun. You know, they're kind of unpredictable too, because you don't really know like what they're really gonna play, and
Dope,
it's
dope.
fun to see that. So
Cool. So I don't know. I started playing when I was 3.5. My mom taught me how to play. I used to watch my brother play a lot, and my first system was NES. Definitely, I think my first game was Mario. I mean, I don't want to say obviously because for most people it's not, but I actually learned. I liked platformers and all that shit because of that, and puzzles because I play Lolo a lot actually. But yeah, let's get right into this. We have a very spicy episode. Okay, I mean, there's spice here and there. Like it's gonna be fine. But we don't wanna we wanna use our time better and learn a lot from it. We learned a lot from the last episode, so we wanna do it well, and also we don't wanna waste anyone's time. So the format is gonna be a little bit changed. Last time the format happened was that I had opening statements. I brought the subjects. This time, actually, I asked the guests and my co-host to bring a subject they're passionate about, and we actually gonna be, you know, they're gonna actually have the opening statement, and then from the conversation is gonna go from there. Okay. The first topic, we are gonna have is timer mechanics in games, which is a topic from MacGyver the Hero. MacGyver, opening statement, go.
okay. So I pitched this topic about timer mechanics in video games because I've just noticed like a lot of like differing opinions when it comes to like timers in games. And if you don't know what I mean by timer mechanics, I mean stuff like hunger mechanics, bleeding mechanics, timers that go on through the entire game. You know, Majora's Mask and Dead Rising, they're great examples of that. And just like from what I've heard, like there's a lot of like opinions, you know, of people that either like, you know, they understand the timers and make sense to them, and then there's some people that like, you know, can complain about them because it can feel really annoying or distracting. So what I wanted to ask the boys here is what do you guys the boys, so ask what you guys think about timer mechanics, and like is there any examples that you thought like, you know, you didn't really mind, like made sense, or just some that just were really distracting or annoying or just did not fit with the overall like pace or tone of the game.
Okay. Lee, go.
Sure. So I want to say a good example of a timer mechanic. So for those familiar with Metroid, there's kind of an infamous scene at the end of pretty much almost every one of the games, right? And it's the escape sequence.
They get the fuck out.
Exactly, yeah. And it's the one part of the game that's timed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting because the whole game tries to build up this idea of exploration, solving different puzzles and all that. And it's crazy to see that there's this sort of like time limit being restricted on the player. But I think it's a good thing because it's being used in a manner to try and elevate dramatic tension within the game, because normally the game tries to embrace the idea of isolation, being alone on a vast alien planet, just trying to understand the different caverns that are behind it. And to me, I think that's a good means of integrating a timer mechanic.
I think, what do you think about thirst and hunger mechanics when they're implemented that way in the games? Lee. In contrast, because I know you, the thing is like, I think it's very easy to defend, right? Or to defend the subject, or like use the example of Metroid, because the thing is like, it's literally a timer. You know what I mean? So what do you think? What do you think an example is negatively, like hunger thirst mechanics? Because the first game, every time I see, that's the reason I don't play survival games, and every time I see that, I'm like, I don't want to play this game anymore. Mm-hmm. That's the reason I stopped playing Minecraft, by the way. I'm just, go ahead.
I can bring up something for him to challenge. So like a Pikmin timer where you have 30 days to collect all the stuff, right? You're getting down to your last 5 days and you got 7 items left to collect because you spent some of your early days dicking around. Are you getting that anxious feeling like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then you just stop playing, or do you power through it and you go get them all?
So Um,
Fire trucks out there.
let's delve into the
My
idea
bad.
relating to thirst and hunger mechanics. Personally, I find them pretty intrusive, as in I find that they only take away from the game because it's adding this sort of mechanic that's supposed to add a sort of like sense of panic. But to me, it just seems like something that's like steadily ticking down that I have to like worry about, as opposed to like something more, I guess, defined, like a sort of like life meter, so to
Okay.
speak. I'm against hunger and thirst mechanics, and I have kind of an interesting example. So it's more of like a breathing mechanic, so to speak.
Okay.
So a good example of a timer mechanic would be in this one game called Echo the Dolphin, and
Yikes.
within that game, you have several objectives, right? The game is similar to Metroid in the sense that it's primarily based around exploration and puzzle solving. But my issue with it is that it has a sort of global timer mechanic that prevents the player from doing that, because you're expected to solve puzzles and explore quick, but you have an oxygen meter that's constantly draining, and it will kill you if you don't react to that in time. And
Okay.
it drives me crazy because these are like two conflicting ideas, right? Like, you want me to explore, but you want me to do it quick, and it's like I don't understand it, and it frustrates me like to no end.
Could you elaborate a little bit, MacGyver, on the different ideas that you have, right, of timer mechanics? Like, I guess there's like some stuff about mobile games or gating content or lives, or the example that Lee gave that is like actually helps. I think it's in a way designed more gameplay wise, and I know Islam was telling me about, it's like a more abstract, like in FPS. I want to get into that a little bit, but MacGyver, can you
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit? What's your main
Yeah.
idea or some examples about
Yeah,
that?
there's a lot to talk about when it comes to like timer mechanics. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to pitch this was because like hunger mechanics, because I was constantly thinking about Minecraft, right? Because that's a game that deals a lot in like exploring the world, discovering new things, and building your own stuff. And it does have like an objective to it at the end, but like my problem with the hunger mechanic in that game is that it feels unnecessary to the rest of the experience. It feels like something that like you would not need in a game like Minecraft, because it's, like I said, it's about the exploration. You're focused on this and whatnot. And in Minecraft, you can like set up all these like resources and farm like weed and food and whatnot. And then when you have so much of
Farm
that
what?
You mind
can do
harvest
farming.
wheat? What?
you
Okay,
can
sorry,
you
go
can do,
ahead.
like,
I thought you say weed.
Oh, I
well,
thought you
weed
also
would be fun in Minecraft, but like someone could mod that in or do a texture pack thing.
Oh, there must be a mod already.
Yeah,
Probably. But right, from what I was saying is that you could farm this stuff. You can have a crap ton of food on you, but then like that hunger meter is constantly going down. You're constantly feeding yourself, and it feels like a nuisance. It feels
It
like
does.
an annoyance, like in the back of your head, and it's like, why do I have to do this now? So like I've always wished, ever since they first implemented it back in the I believe it was the adventure update back when it first went into beta, where they added the hunger mechanic, and since then they have never added an option to turn off hunger mechanics. But you look at a game like Subnautica, for example, recent example from 2018, great game, by the way, definitely recommend it. And that is a game which does have like that survival mechanic of hunger and even thirst. But the cool thing about that game is that it does give you the option to turn off hunger mechanics entirely. And that's what I love about the game, because that game, it's not really like a big survival game, in my opinion. It's all about the exploration, finding out new things, and also progressing. You scan things. The scanner is probably one of the biggest things since Metroid, okay? Like, that thing is useful. You scan things and you can craft new things out of that. And when you go through that in the game, it's a lot more rewarding. And so, like, with hunger mechanics, it never really made sense for me for that game to have it either, for the same reasons as Minecraft. And especially because Subnautica also has an objective. It does have a bit of a story mode here to progress in and actually finish. So, like, games like that, just, like, hunger mechanics don't make sense to me. I will say, like, I am mixed about hunger mechanics in games that actually are, like, hardcore survival. Like, everybody here knows DayZ or Project Zomboid, right? Like, these are games where they don't really have a goal. It's just about surviving. And they do have hunger mechanics. And to me, like, like, okay, that can kind of make sense in terms of hunger mechanics, you know, scavenging around for food and whatnot, but it also depends on like the game itself or even the servers you go on to, because like in DayZ you can have servers that are really giving out loot and food and whatnot,
Right.
and then other servers like don't give you pardon my French, but they don't give you jack shit. So like
Nice French.
you're screwed, you know.
Let me ask you something though.
Go ahead.
If there's a game that is a survival game, what else a survival game has to offer that isn't, oh, I need to find food and cook it, I need to find water and drink.
Survival implies that mechanic.
Well, the thing is like, fair enough. I guess like since I'm not a fan, I like to like shit on them, because I guess if you can say the same thing about an FPS, because the category calls that it's like you're gonna shoot shit. You know what I mean? However, let me put you an example that I don't want to get too carried away, because I want to get into the battle royales with the slumlord we have to say. But the thing is like, listen, back in the day, and the thing is this has happened several times, right? I'm gonna put your example real quick so I can leave you there, right? When everyone thought what a first-person shooter was, and everyone thought what an adventure was, a platformer, Nintendo came and did Metroid Prime, right? And I'm gonna put you another example. When everyone thought everyone had figured out open world, which we're gonna be talking about later, by the way, spoiler alert, Nintendo came and did Breath of the Wild, right? And everyone was like, wow, Nintendo, you never made a game like this before. And everyone was like, what the fuck? This actually redefines the category. Lee, you have something to say right now.
I'm holding myself back.
Yeah, you look excited, man.
I'll wait. I should probably wait.
But yeah, what, you want to say something about the open world, Breath of the Wild specifically? You want to wait until we talk about it?
Well, I was just gonna say that Nintendo already did that with their original release of Legend of Zelda in 1985.
There you go.
So.
And no, the thing is like, I'm putting an example also what people think. Like, I think before the Nintendo 64, there's a lot of things that people thought were given, like, oh, this is how you do a platformer, a side scroller, and things like that. And then, or a category that never existed, and Nintendo did, Mario 64, and everyone just trying to copy Mario 64, adding a lot of shit, like happened with Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong 64, or even like fucking, I don't know, whatever. I'm just saying. Again, I said I didn't want to carry away, but Slum, you told me before we were talking that there is like the timer thing, that a time constraint, right? That keeps being put in FPS in general. So go.
So what I'll say is that timers can be warranted in every sort of situation, I guess, and it kind of depends on the situation of the game or the style that you're going for. And games as big as DayZ, I think a hunger mechanic fits in to that, and it creates a sense of urgency, anxiety to the player, being like, oh, you always got to be doing something.
Yeah, I agree on that.
That works into the battle royale genre, where you've got these, you might as well call them round timers, because that's what they are essentially. And I guess timers aren't anything new to the FPS genre, or else it'd just go on forever, but the thing that always turns me off about battle royales is the sense of urgency placed on you by the timer, and the differences between your round experience being you'll end up with very, very slow-paced gameplay, and then it's just boom, you're in a firefight, bam, 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 shots ringing out. But
then one bullet is like,
yeah, and then you can. This is more just comparing FPSs, but when you look at a game like Rainbow Six Siege, round timers, or at least let's just call it round timer theory, right?
Yeah.
The development of how long a round should actually be has gotten down to a science in a game like Rainbow Six Siege, where the timer isn't making you really moved to complete the objective in a match for Rainbow Six. because the level design makes it so that you can run around the levels really quick. There's lots of verticality to it, and that I think the round timers for a game like Rainbow Six Siege have been fine-tuned enough that they work excellent, and that if it was any longer or shorter, especially in the longer side for the ranked modes, the matches would just be insane. They wouldn't be as fun and as fast-paced as they are.
Let me ask you something. Would you agree? The things like I don't think you make an actual. I don't think you took a stance specifically for battle royales. Will you say that the way that the pace is controlled because of the timer is actually something positive or something negative?
In my opinion, it's negative because I'm just not a fan of the battle royale. I will say that Anthem kind of is more my speed because I'm more of a squad player.
Right.
And I've never been a solo kind of guy. I always hated pugging it. So,
like
yeah.
I actually think that by design, I guess if we were talking about the survival, right? Like we were saying that by design, then you need the fact that you need to eat and drink. But I think in a battle royale, the goal is if there's no timer, right? And which is the timer is defined by how fast or how the circle closes, right? Every time is smaller. Is actually gathering everyone together so the game can end, right? Because if there's no timer and there's no circle, everyone can just camp forever because the map is way too big, right?
It takes forever to find.
So I would say that by design, it is required in a way. You know what I mean?
And I think by design,
it
sucks. Forces play styles.
Right.
It forces
I can see that.
And stuff that I'm just not a fan of, so I don't blame him.
The thing is, like, like the thing you mentioned camping, but the thing is, like, Siege or like versus FPS, you can camp too if you want. You can just hold a spot and just wait for someone to camp, right? Right.
And I guess
yeah,
when it comes to a game like Siege, maybe it's just because I enjoy that game a lot that I don't mind it, because it's always attack defense. It's not everyone's the same character or like everyone's on a level playing field in Battle Royale, whereas in Rainbow Six Siege, certain characters strive in places where others don't and stuff, right. and situations and stuff.
I just wanted everyone to know that I don't play Battle Royales, but I need to say something against that too.
I play both.
The thing is like Battle Royale though is that it turns out to be only by skill if everyone's in the same plane, right? If there's no classes, and there is like the only thing that will make it different and accessible is the drops, right? You go to somewhere and you say, oh shit, I got a good gun, and I'm a bad player, so it gives me a bigger chance to actually engage more aggressively or whatever, like in a battle, if I actually encounter someone that is better than me skill wise with a shitty gun, right?
Yeah,
right.
To a certain point, yeah, I can.
To a certain point, yeah. MacGyver. No, Lee, you said you wanted to mention something.
You kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I was also going to reiterate that the weapon drops play a large part in that.
Yeah, I think there is a. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I maybe add some stuff?
Yeah, no, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, in terms of battle royales, just subjectively speaking, I cannot stand them. They just frustrate the hell out of me. I tried to do Danger Zone in CS:GO, and it's just I can't.
Danger Zone is the new BR for them.
Yeah,
right?
It's the new battle royale mode in that game, and I got to number 2, but just the path there is so frustrating. But in terms of timers for battle royale, it does make sense why it's there, because like you said, the whole circle thing, because you have the timer to tell you when the circle's going to close, and then
right.
So
I remember we were talking about it, and I think with the concept of FPS or shooting or when you put mechanics together, I remember I guess I don't know if you guys know Day 9. You guys know Day 9? You guys familiar with him?
Doesn't
Day 9 used to be a broadcaster for shoutcaster for a commentator for StarCraft 2 community. Used to be in the scene. I think he's still in the scene. He streams too and make video and whatever. I remember one time I watched a video of him that he said The combination of there is like it's very hard to tell what's gonna be fun when you actually design a game, right? You just have a combination of ideas and mechanics that you put together that need to make sense logically and as a product, right? And depending on how you tweak them, these ideas is just what it becomes gameplay, and how people interact, and you will never know if it's fun or not until you actually do it, because you can have the best idea ever, and if you execute it wrong too, it will be actually you wouldn't want to play it.
Yeah.
And I think that bringing that point is that in FPSs and in things like that, it's very abstract, the concept of timing or how time actually affects, or like there's always a pace and there's always a rhythm, right? And you will say, for example, there's a timing, for example, about patience when you play Dark Souls or Bloodborne or things like that, because or even like, and then put your example, like even the Ocarina of Time, right? Or Majora's Mask in that case, that you can auto target and you have to wait for the enemy to do something so you can counter attack, right? And there's a timer about that dance that you do when you're playing, you know what I mean? And Bloodborne is like that too in general, I think. And I think that timer, right, at least the waiting, or because I remember also, and I don't want to get too into in a how do you call it, monologue, but I wanna lead to say more. But I don't know, you guys know Ego Raptor, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I saw his video on that. You were gonna bring that Ocarina of Time. Has like a
Sequelitis.
lot of things that make
The
you wait a
sequelitis
lot.
video, yeah, but he says like he
Yeah.
doesn't like it because there is like many reasons that he says he doesn't like it, and many reasons, like for example, he made a video on Mega Man 2 on why he's the best game and things like that. The thing is like, I think different interactions on different games, call for different paces. Like the other day, there was a video in Livestream Fails or something like that from this streamer. I don't need to say his name, but he's big, and the thing is like people were complaining that he rage quits every game that he plays except for WoW, right? Because he has played blindly WoW for 12, 14 years, and every game he plays is spoiled, that he cannot wait or read anything that happens in the game because he just plays WoW in macros and he just like moves. You know what I mean? He doesn't even have to move in most things. The thing is like, I think that was interesting, and that was actually something that I thought about today, that waiting and reading and getting into the game also as a timer thing is part of that pacing that needs to get you in. Like I think again is the theme about the abstract that is hard to measure. You know what I mean in general.
Yeah.
Anyways, before I go crazy, Lee, what are all the things that you have thought about this subject?
There were a couple of other things I wanted to mention. So I know I mentioned the idea of having like a timer within like confined space, like a timer for like a character's kind of like meter, so to speak. There were a couple other things I wanted to bring up. I wanted to bring up the idea of a global timer, but without consequences, so to speak.
Okay.
And my example for that is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. And in this game, you have 3 days to save the world. And you wait until the end of the cycle, and if you don't do anything, the world ends, and like it's quote unquote a game over, so to speak. I know, spoilers, right? But
Whoa, dude, I have never played The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask and gotten all the masks to get the Fierce Deity mask.
Whoa, to spoil it? No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Whoa.
and the big thing about that game is that you get this ability pretty early in the game that lets you reset time back to day one.
Right.
So you effectively kind of remove any consequences of failing the game. The only things that genuinely happen are that, one, you lose your money, but you can deposit that at the bank, so you're kind of
Somehow.
immune to that effect. Somehow,
Yeah.
yeah, that money is
Bank
timeless,
is,
apparently.
like, not controlled by time.
And you lose various like items that are in bottles and all that. And
Right.
another thing I wanted to mention,
Like consumables, let's say, right? Or something.
yeah, exactly, like potions and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you lose all your ammo too and bombs. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing with that is that those are fairly easy to replace. The biggest thing regarding this is that the only way to save the game for the N64, you have to reset the time back to square one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting, right? but I don't really feel like the consequences aside from that are really enough to really like, dictate that like there's a lot of like danger and weight to this kind of scenario.
Because you could just save and restart and reset the timer so easily.
Exactly.
The
So you think-
consequences of the game don't matter.
Right.
Well, the thing is, like, I think there's two things about that. Is that it creates urgency of, because I'm gonna bring another gameplay example, a mechanic that they introduce to make time matter, is that there's a specific events that happen and at specific times, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you get like the Bomber's Book or something like that. What's the name? Bomber's Book or whatever.
Yeah, the Bomber's Notebook.
The notebook.
Helps you track all those events.
Right. So the thing is, like, if you actually want to do, want to go over and actually make all the events, because ultimately, as a collector, you want to get all the masks because you don't actually need them. But actually, there's a true ending to, like, I think, like for the first time, I will say, in Zelda, like getting a true ending if you have all the masks, right? But
Well, you get a huge bonus. I don't think it affects the ending though, to my knowledge.
Wait, what?
well,
Always
that's true. That's true.
incentivized
It's
to
not
get
true
this.
ending because you still save everyone from the moon, right? That's
Yeah.
true. It's not like Hollow Knight. Let me not get into Hollow Knight right now. But no, for example, I think it adds the gameplay mechanic as a holy shit. I can actually get all these things done, and that's why people play games, to get do different things, etc. So it's not like, the thing is, like, I say that because my fear is that the way you put it, it means that the timer mechanic doesn't really fucking matter, right?
Right.
Because
and I
there's no
was-
consequences, in your words,
Yeah.
right?
And I was also going to follow up saying, like, is the lack of like proper consequences like detrimental to the game? And I was going to say, in addition to the thing that you mentioned, I think that's a very good example of the timer still being relevant to the game, because the entire game is designed around that, with the idea of NPCs having their own sort of schedule, being able to get different masks at different time of the day, even having shops open up at different times of the day too.
Right.
So-
Right. That I forgot about that. And different deals that you can have every night, and there's a shop. You have to trade a
Exactly.
mask every night or something until the last day.
Yeah.
I remember. Okay. I think. What do you think, MacGyver, about that?
Yeah, it makes sense as a possible like concern that resetting time just doesn't like set any consequences for Majora's Mask. But I actually wanted to bring up a sort of bad example of like how not to do what Majora's Mask does.
Mhm.
And I think I probably put this in my notes somewhere, but the Shenmue games, particularly the first one. Now, I haven't played myself, but from like what I've like reviewed upon from videos, essentially the game has this global timer, and in the game, like it's kind of a slightly open worldish sort of experience. But in that game, like a lot of the activities or like quests you need to do are really based on time. So like if there's a quest where you have to like be at somebody's place, to talk to someone, then that place might be closed and you have to come back later. So then you have to wait or do something else, and then you come back, and then you go there, you meet the person tells you like, I'm not available, and then you go out, you do something else, you come back, and then
Right.
he tells you to see another guy, and then you go to the other guy, he says he's not available until this time. So like you guys see that vicious cycle there.
And you
and, like,
stand
that's
around
a-
for 8 hours just
yeah,
waiting.
and also there's no way to speed up time in that game, from what I heard as well. So like, that sounds like an extremely frustrating experience. Like,
I remember we're talking about it was Lee who was mentioning Persona. It was something like that.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that game's kind of neat because it has a sort of like global timer in that you each of the different acts of the game are separated in days, and throughout each of these days you can do various things such as raising your social links, which will make your monsters stronger, which are like the equivalent of Pokemon in that game, so to speak.
Okay.
And the
Make
interesting thing
friends.
about
Power
make
of
friends
friendship.
because your friends strengthen your bonds essentially. And it's really cute. But the interesting thing about that game is that the timer works in segments, and for each of the segments you have to finish a major dungeon of the game before the allotted like day shows up on the calendar.
Yep.
And I think that game succeeds in a lot of regards because it makes every decision count. Because you need to allot certain days for doing things outside of dungeons, such as getting items, maxing out your social links, and you also need to spend time in the dungeon leveling up, because if you don't take down the boss by the end of the time, then you get a game over, and you have to either load from your final save, or you go back a week in time and lose like 7 hours of progress.
Let me ask you something actually to clarify. I have never played Persona, but I have seen games, right, that are. Thank you, Visco, for the raid. I have seen games that I have seen like people streaming Persona or something and things like that. You know what I mean? But let me ask you something. So they put you in a situation where you can stand and do nothing, and then you lose. That's what you're saying?
Not quite. So the way that the timer works, it's not a literal timer. A day passes when you do like an action, so to speak. So a day will pass if you either hang out with someone or try to increase one of your character stats, or if you go to the dungeon, that'll take up a day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not like a literal timer in that sense.
Actually, that reminds me of how Mega Man Battle Network timers work. I think they're pretty similar. That you need to do a certain stuff, like talk to a specific amount of people. Obviously, it's not that advanced, I would say, or intricate, right? As you know, as Persona. But the thing is, like, there is a certain amount of events that you need to trigger to progress in that day, because it works with days too. That because you're going to school and you need to. Yeah. Oh my God, elect man, hack the chalkboard or something, and you need to jack in or something. Exactly. But the thing is, like, I think I like to think also again that this concept of. It's abstract, you know what I mean? Because there are timers of like, like MacGyver said, bleeding or the FPS or VR or things like that. But again, like this, and then Persona is actual time, and Majora, but the thing is like Mega Man is like, okay, it's morning, and if you do everything you need to do, it's not that you didn't pick this item in this place and you lost it, because you can come back in another time of the day and get it, right? There is no actual repercussion, because the thing is like, I think there's a point where you're like, this needs to stop, or like, at the end of the day, as realistic as they want to do games, right? In talking about time as, time passing or repercussion, because holy shit, I was standing here and, the time passes. That's outside of Majora, because Majora is fucking best game. But the thing is like,
agreed.
At the end of the day, you're making a game and you need to make it fun. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you need to have a very, very good reason to at the time. And it's not like, oh, this May 20, I'm gonna put the date. April 20th, you didn't go. You like that date, right? April 20th, you didn't go. You couldn't get that item. Holy shit, like I lost it, and then you read on the forums or something like that because you like the game. Oh, I missed it because whatever. You know what I mean? Like, like I think like, again, I don't know. I think it can get a little bit they can get how do you call it? I used to use the word frisky. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, let's add the mechanic because it feels more real. Like like does it though? Like it's just you're making annoyance out of it. You know what I mean?
And speaking of annoying, there was one thing I wanted to mention related to timer mechanics. It's actually one of your points. I wanted to bring up the idea of using real life time to like, help speed things along, so to speak, because I'm pretty sure most of us are very passionate about the idea of paying for time walls.
Yikes. So. Slum, take it away.
I don't play mobile games.
I think
I don't have that kind of time.
It's luxury at this point, right?
Dealing with like, every 8 hours I need to refresh. I've tried here and there, but time gates and mobile games, no man. Yeah, get them out of here.
Get the. I want to say real quick before giving it to MacGyver. Last game I played was when I was in Japan. In Japan, I played Captain Toad. I bought it for the Switch, and I played Donut County, right? Which I pay money for it. It's like it's a real game, okay? But the thing is, like, I have gotten to the point that the mobile games actually pay for premium, not freemium, for an actual mobile game that an actual company. I'm not talking about EA games or mobile. I'm talking about like okay, this game was made and you can buy it on Steam, or you can buy it on iOS, or you can buy it on Android, whatever, right? I bought that game. It was a great game. Like, sure, I didn't put more than an hour and a half. It's not longer than that. But the thing is, like, I'm not gonna download and play the fucking new runner or the Crusher, the new Crusher, you know, or even like I'm gonna tell you, like I thought I was gonna play Mario Run for a long time, or Mitomo, or fucking Animal Crossing, right? I was like, or Drigalia Dragon. I remember Overnet told me about it. I was like, ugh, it's just the same thing. MacGyver, take it away. Hate on it.
So before I get to a point, I forgot you can jack into blackboards.
Yes.
Oh, and
yeah, I
yeah,
think
it's like literally like every electronic.
Yeah, I haven't played Battle Network 3 in a long time. I really should. I still have it on Game Boy. But anyway,
we should stream it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of mobile games, I kind of consider it the cancer of the games industry.
Big statement. Big if true.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, at least for
That's
most
a
of
hot
them,
take.
like because they tend to be designed with some of the most greediest microtransaction practices in the history of man. So, like, when it comes to
Of
timers with
mankind.
mobile,
Yeah.
yeah, in the history of mankind, it's that huge. So anyway, when it comes to timers in mobile games, they're so infamous for timers. Okay, I'm not shitting you, because like, probably one example I can give is this game called Dungeon Keeper. It was made by EA. Some of you guys probably know the controversy around it, but basically, and there's several tycoon games like that. But basically, like in order to like do specific actions like mine a space and whatnot, you know, to dig, it would take an insane amount of hours just to test your patience. And it's like, oh, you gotta wait, or you can go to our little store in the corner just over here. Like, imagine a button right there, and like you go there, you buy you can buy microtransactions with real money, and then you pay for it that way. And to me, I do not like that form of like timer, like something that literally forces you to wait like that. I mean, it's like with Shenmue, like how you have to wait for specific times of day, but this is like greedy. And also, now that I think about it, do you guys know that new Harry Potter game that was on mobile a while ago?
No.
No. Okay, so there was this Harry Potter game on mobile. You know, you create a character, and this is a game that involves stamina for every action you do in that game. And eventually, Hogwarts Mystery. Someone in chat pointed that out. But that game, it has a stamina system, and the stamina system, like you can get currency to replenish the stamina. But the game is designed in a way where, like, you go through it, and there's timers going on for each like mission or class you have to do. And then there's this one point in the game where like you're fighting this tentacle monster or something, and like this tentacle thing is literally choking your character like this, and at that same moment you run out of stamina. So the game is just there, and you're out of stamina. You have to wait like a few hours to for it to recharge. And the only way to like bypass that, if you don't want to wait, is to buy microtransactions. But in the meanwhile, you're just stuck there watching this child getting strangled by a vine.
Nice.
Just like this, and you're going.
That's what we need.
It's like that's literally what it is. Like you are literally watching a child getting strangled.
That's exploiting
you
like
watch
player
a child
psychology.
get strangled,
right
or
there.
you pay to stop the child getting strangled. Like, it's greedy. It's absolutely predatory.
Yeah, I think we know better, actually. At least, you know,
Yeah, so
older
that's my
gamers,
huge
you know what I
rant
mean?
on Mobile games.
Yeah.
at least with, you know, all at least with mobile games, you know what I mean? I guess the main takeaway that we can take from here before moving to the next topic is that it can be used positively, it's abstract, can be used negatively, and mobile games suck, right? I guess
Agreed.
that's the lead.
Unanimously.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Good. So, second topic. I
The
wanna
spicy one.
get. This is gonna get fucking crazy. Holy shit. So it's basically open world games versus linear games, and this is a topic brought up to you by Just Leave a Month.
Right.
And I want Just
Credit
Leave a
goes
Month to. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the credit goes to one of my viewers, the jalapeno pepper. He actually
Yeah.
came up with this one. So
Dope. Thank you, Jalapeno. I know Jalapeno. That's actually very good 8-bit pixel artist.
pixel
actually.
art, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but Lee, I want you to have the opening statement and say what your stance on this thing.
Sure.
Go.
So, to me, there seems to be a sort of recent trend in gaming where the idea is that the larger your game is, the better. And I think open world games have been steadily increasing in popularity. And I find that interesting because some people even go so far as to condemn other games for their linearity and lack of openness, so to speak. I think that this is a sort of trend that kind of undermines how previous games were designed in terms of both their limitations for their consoles and simply the idea of just designing a game in general. And I want to ask you guys, do you think linearity is considered outdated in this day and age?
Okay,
Not
wait.
really.
Okay, yeah.
You tell.
I don't think so. Wait.
I don't think so either.
Sorry, you asked if we think linearity is outdated.
Correct. wanna start with
Because
that.
your statement is that you think companies are forgetting about linear games and most games now are open world.
Can I
Well,
say something?
Yeah,
If you
go
don't
ahead.
mind me butting in.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I don't believe linear games are dying, but I do think that AAA gaming really prefers open world design for their games because it's a very versatile style of level design. You know, you can put a lot of game modes into it and genres. You know, you can have a first-person shooter in an open world. You can have a third-person shooter. Like you can have that kind of stuff, and it's really good for multiplayer as well. So like I can see why AAA gaming prefers open world gaming. You know, especially Ubisoft. They're a huge
They love that shit.
company that does that. Like almost every one of their games these days have been open world titles. But in terms of like linear gameplay, it's not something that's dying, but it is something that is smaller in scale. You know, so
Right.
that's just my detailed answer.
Slum, take it away. You said that
So-
linear is not outdated.
Yeah, linear is definitely not outdated. I think that people's ability to tell good stories is becoming harder and harder because I think everyone's trying to tell a different story and no one wants to tell
A good one.
something similar that has already been done before. I guess, you know, a lot of people look back and try to come up with an idea that's so different than anything else, and that their strength in story writing isn't that great, and that's what can hurt a linear game. But man, I'm a big fan of the open world. I love to get sidetracked by every little fucking, you know, quest and location and getting all the items, you know.
Unlocking the
Ubisoft's
map,
really-
the whole map. Oof.
Mhm.
Yeah. I gotta get those waypoints. I gotta get those synchronized. I gotta climb to the top of the goddamn tower. You know, I gotta climb to the top of the millionth Ubisoft tower and hit synchronize so I can get this beautiful sweeping cam shot of the entire map. And I don't usually get overwhelmed by open world content. I just kind of start. You know, a lot of these games now, they're all broken up by, you know, states or sections because now they're all starting to model real life locations. Like take the new Assassin's Creed Odyssey. What a fucking great game. I love that game. Beat the crap out of it. And I'm just waiting for the rest of the DLC to roll out for it.
Oh, there's
But-
still DLC. I didn't know.
Yeah, they're making so this whole thing. There's like a bunch of people you got to kill, just like any Assassin's Creed game. You know,
Right.
the hallmark of an
Targets.
Assassin's Creed game is your target,
Uh-huh.
and that the openness is something I love to just get lost in, and I always push the story off, and I just start tackling all the side quests and all the locations that I can go to that are within my level range. And then I'll do like big sweeps of the story, just one right after the other.
Let me
and
ask you
then
something.
Do that, yeah.
Okay, so this applies for all of us. Which story do you find more compelling in open world games? The story that is presented to you by the designers, or the story that you create by going to all these different locales?
Yo, that's too fucking
So,
deep right now.
Are you
Holy
into
shit.
the explicit or implicit story?
Mm.
Because I prefer the journey that I create in those games.
Yeah, and I think that lends itself a lot in the new Assassin's Creed game, at least in how I experienced it, is
Okay.
that you kind of just will roll up on a nation on a state, and then it's like, oh, this is where the Olympics are held. Holy shit, you can go to the Parthenon and all that cool stuff, or go find all the statues of Zeus. And it's more about getting to that. And then when you have to go there as part of the story, it's like, I've already been here. I really don't care, because I came here by myself and kind of like walked up and down all the streets, looked around, maybe killed some guards or whatnot.
I think it's very. I think for a game, I think regardless if it's open world or not, I think I need to give a shit about it. Like they need to make me give a shit, right? And I think I wanted to say the first thing that about this subject is that I think we need to get the shitty games out of the way, so we're not criticizing them because they're open world, not right. So I think I like that Slum brought up that the example, for example, of Assassin's Creed, Odyssey, because Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a good game, right? And it happens to be open world, regardless of how much Assassin's Creed has changed. You know what I mean? Because it used to be open world-ish, and now it's actually truly open world, or like based on real locations and things like that. But the thing is, like,
open zone is what I usually call them. These
Right.
like cities, and it's just a big zone.
Right. And for example, I think that if we start using examples as, good games that, let's at least say critically acclaimed, that's we're not being subjective, right? We can see a lot of critically acclaimed games are, a lot of them are open world, right? Because they, I guess you can put it in a way that the means to tell the story and to present the gameplay that developers want to present to, again, for abstract reason to make it fun, happens to be an open world, right? And the thing is also considering like what this open world provides as a selling point, right? Like, I mean, for example, if you think about it, I would say, I don't know if you guys agree with this, I like to think about it that Dungeons and Dragons, it was the first video game, right? And every video game comes from that more than Pong or that shit, you know what I mean? Like conceptually, right? You are being someone and you want to take in an adventure, you want to tell a story, you want to be, the best. It doesn't matter, right? In sports or whatever, right? It doesn't matter. And in my mind, when I see it that way, I think, well, what kind of story I'm being given and what kind of story I want to tell, right? And I think that the medium or the vehicle of the open world actually has a lot more openness, or a lot more you can take more risks.
It's more of a complex world if you think about it. From a design standpoint, you're trying to imitate real life, and so what does that mean? City squares have to be populated, and people got to be walking and moving around. There has to be something changing, and I think we see it more now with the current gen compared to, like, let's just take like the PS3 generation and those open world games. We can even use Infamous as an example. These islands, as you started, moving through and clearing it, they got safer and safer, and you didn't really have to go back to any of the zones that you already completed.
Right. I think that reminds me of. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, and then in like recent iterations of the Far Cry series, you're given the ability to reset all of the bases and take them over again. So it extends the gameplay in there. I guess developers have found out that extending the life of an open world game adds more to it, rather than just you did it once and now you're done, so now you don't have to go back.
Right. I think the 2 points I want to bring real quick before giving to Lee, back to Lee, is that I think we can even go way back with open world like Ico or like Shadow of the Colossus or things like that, or let's say Mario Sunshine, right? Open world, right? Or even Mario 64, right? Sure, why not?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, okay, that's one thing. The other thing is, I was gonna say, I have it here. I'll be back to that thought, but I know you have a little bit more to say about this.
Yeah, so one of the big things that I've been kind of thinking about regarding the whole open worlds versus linear games argument is that, to me, it comes down to a matter of structure versus agency. And to me, I think that linear games offer more structure and open world games offer more agency, so to speak. And I think an interesting way of looking at this is that as gamers, I think we should ask ourselves, how much of each are we willing to give up of each of these things?
Okay.
And there's two extreme examples that I wanted to say of extreme structure and extreme agency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both of these games are really bad because of both of these extremes. So the first example I wanted to bring up was the idea of Final Fantasy XIII. And this game has gotten a lot of flack because many of the Final Fantasy games, prior to Final Fantasy X, I believe, had a lot more freedom in terms of what you could do. You had a much larger open world map. You had more flexible systems in place. And the big problem with 13 is that there are 13 chapters to the game.
Yeah.
To my knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
the game is completely linear, as in you're in a literal hallway until chapter 11 of the game.
Yep. Yep.
Fucking
And that's why I
yikes.
put that game down. Is I got to, you go into that weird text zone. I don't even remember. It's been that long. And I got in there and I started getting wrecked because I didn't grind enough before I got in there. And I said, I'm done playing this game, and I put it down. And I've never picked it back up.
But you
I'm not
can't
even
grind
sure that you can
linear.
get out of that area and get back to an area where you could grind efficiently.
Well, once you get to the very large area, that is your area to grind. In
Yeah,
chapter
but
11.
I've already went past that into the next area where it's funneling you towards the end game. And I wasn't leveled enough when I hit that point, and I don't think you can go back. Or if you could, I think I'm very towards the end, and I don't want to backtrack all the way out of that dungeon or zone or whatever it was. But yeah,
Right.
I know why that game gets a lot of flack, and it's because of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's such an extreme example too, because you're integrating this idea into a genre specifically that is known for having freedom for both exploration and even for the system mechanics. You don't even unlock level 10 of it's called the Crystarium, and it's your system that lets you upgrade your different roles and classes for your characters. You don't unlock that until after you beat the final boss.
Dude, that fucking sucks, let me tell you.
Yeah, and this is a AAA game, right?
Yikes.
And it's just killing all of your choice in a genre that's known for giving you that flexibility.
Although, well, yeah, that's true. I remember 10, they give you the boat, the Sid. Sid has the big flying
Yeah.
thing. Maybe when you have 4 areas already. But it's actually, the world is actually interconnected, like most Final Fantasy, I guess. You can actually go back to anything, I don't understand why they did that. Actually, I was watching a friend play it, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess it looks good, but I never actually put hands on it because of how linear it was actually.
Right.
You said you had another example that was extreme?
Yeah. So that was kind of the example of having structure to the extreme, right? And this other example, I kind of thought of this one last minute, but
Oh, this
I
is
thought
a
it was
good
pretty
one.
relevant. Yeah. So the other example is the idea of extreme agency.
Yep.
But to me, I think this game lacks structure. I think the game No Man's Sky is a very good example of this.
One man's lie, you mean?
Exactly.
God.
And
Okay.
this game is touted as this game where there's so many universes that you can explore, right? And it has the idea that there's all these things you can do. But when you get down to the core of it,
There's nothing to do in that game.
right, and the
It's
options
like,
are
what is the
limited.
thing?
Sorry
Right.
to cut you off on that, but
No, it's cool.
I even tried playing it within 3 months ago with one of my friends, and it is just as boring and complicated to upgrade your digger pistol or any of that, or create it the base building tools or the
Right,
the
that was something I wanted to mention
worst.
too. I think the idea of that whole base building thing, it contradicts the idea behind agency, because you're trying to establish yourself on one planet or something along those lines. And it's just like you're killing the idea of exploration and agency by adding this mechanic, and it's like you can't have both. You either
Can I say
want-
something?
My Gabby,
You
go
go
ahead.
for it,
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
good top.
so like with No Man's Sky, I just want to say that like it's not worth beating that game because like the goal of the game is to get to the center of the galaxy, right?
and that's the structure of the game.
Yeah. And so
That's the
like
structure,
what's
yeah.
the point of base building? Like aren't you supposed to keep moving? Like keep going?
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
have-
I would prefer
yeah.
it like if it was like in Starbound where you could like build the interior of your ship. Like that's a good example, by the way, and like I prefer that over No Man's Sky. Play that game,
Hmm.
Ted. And but yeah, like, and when you get to the center of the galaxy, like, can I say spoilers?
Yeah, go
for
ahead.
it.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
It's
I
not,
got
it's
it.
not
I
worth
got
it.
that.
That game.
But basically, you go to the center, it's like, oh, and then when you go in, it's like.
Does it look like
It zooms
Mass
out.
Effect when you get to the center? Like I'm imagining those big those big Reaper ships like in the
Yeah.
center around
It's not
that
like that.
diamond that's on the cover, right? Is the diamond in the center that black?
No.
Okay.
You never see the center. Instead, what it does is you go in, but it pulls out, and you just see the stars going away. It's like,
Yep.
it's like if you could see behind you, you would see this, and it would be just coming closer.
I wish.
Pretty
It's
much.
just like that.
That's what that
It's
disc should have had printed on it. Is just a middle finger, just
That's
being like,
exactly
"Hey,
what
you
the
got
anime-
fucking scammed $60."
Yeah.
Enjoy
So anyway, in terms of the agency that Lee's probably referring to, like getting from point A, you know, starting off, going through all the planets and shit, and point B is the center of the galaxy. All that stuff in between is it's shit. It's not good. It's boring. It's repetitive.
couldn't-
it's...
Like
I
what is
couldn't
the
figure
agency
out
there?
how
You're
to-
controlling the pace of the game. Like
No, you're trying to refill your goddamn ship because you keep
Mm-hmm.
running out of the material that lets you launch off the planet.
Mhm.
Like that was the one thing that frustrated me to no end is I kept running out of that fuel, and it's like you can only find that fuel floating
Mm-hmm.
around the planets, I think.
right.
And it's just such, it didn't get better. And you know, the mouse, like the interface controls, he didn't think about programming it for a mouse and keyboard because it's so unintuitive mouse and keyboard that you're probably better off playing with a controller on PC if you really wanted to play. Excuse me.
And Max, you look like you were ready to say something.
But
Actually,
like,
no, you guys gonna kill me. Actually, but
god
this is the
damn,
thing.
that game sucks.
This is
So
this is the thing.
bad.
I'm gonna say a couple things about this.
Okay. And I also have another point relating to the
I want to
openness of
mention
that
one
game
more
as well.
thing before we
Sure.
like end the topic.
Yeah, no, we have time. We have time.
Oh, we got a lot of time.
First of all, I bought No Man's Sky release date, and I played it for exactly.
Ouch, dude.
Yes,
I'm
you got
sorry.
scammed.
I was into the hype. Right? I'm a big sucker. You guys know. For dogfight, space dogfights. You know, landing
Those-
from space into the planet. That's what got me. Right? I was like, holy shit. Yeah. Right. It doesn't matter what the planet looks, whatever. To me, it didn't matter. And I was like, I just want to take my ship and get into a planet from space. You know, that's my thought. Right? I just want to say I played it for exactly 60 hours because I actually reached the center of the galaxy. Right? That's the first thing.
You sunk 60 hours into that game.
I did 60 hours.
How does
Right?
it feel to never have that time back?
You know, and the thing is like, and that was pre-update for the bases and everything, right? And that was like the first 2 weeks, as Vince Nitro said, he played for 2 weeks and he didn't like it. Whatever. I played it and I enjoyed it. I remember my time, right? I enjoyed it because, again, first of all, I like grinding and I like space, right? I'm a big sucker. The thing is, I'm not saying it's a good game. I am saying I enjoy it, right? I didn't regret my time.
I'm getting frustrated that you grinded 60 hours in that game.
And I'm gonna tell you something. I actually got a ship which is like was fully stocked with all the slots, and I upgraded everything. Right? That was I put the things like this is what happens. The same thing happened with Warframe. Like I'm a kind of person that I put my own goal. There is a lot of shit to do, even if it's bullshit, right? And I'm like, wow, I want to do that. What did I need to do that? And if it's painful, right? The walk that I need to do, I do it to end up getting it, right? And that's what I enjoy, right? The other point that I was gonna do I was gonna say a small note actually. You say about the bases, right? Building the base, because if the point is to reach the center of the galaxy, what's the
Then
point
that
of building a
hinders you.
base, right?
Right.
And I think that's that's a very complicated question, because it's a very complicated answer.
I put 19 hours into this game. Like,
But what I'm gonna tell you, I think it actually goes deeper than what is this game? Why is this game putting this feature or something? I think it actually has to do with how do humans feel comfortable, right? I think there is something that the games give you, which is isolation, complete isolation, that you are actually in space alone, right? Regardless of what they say, you can play with people, you can find people, it's multiplayer, it doesn't matter, right? I'm sorry about the sounds because this is New York City. You know how it is here, right? Everyone is coming for me, okay? But I'm gonna tell you something.
That door.
I'm gonna tell you something. Regardless of its bad game design, which I'm not saying it's a good game. I'm not saying you guys should buy it. I'm just saying, right? I'm saying is that there is a point that you know, as a species, you actually want to stop and take a break, and that's where the basis idea came from. That I actually agree with doing. Right? I didn't know. I know that you can handle, you know, materials with the, you know, there is like a spaceship too that you can put your stuff and comes with you per galaxy and things like that. But the thing is, like, I think there is like more. It's like a more abstract and more deeper human need of, well, I have this desire to explore, but I have also this need to be able to rest and to be able to stay in one single place, and this feeling of comfort. I think like I think it's like that kind of vibe that I'm talking about, right?
Well,
regardless of how the game's turned out and how bad is the game, it doesn't matter, right? I'm talking about more, you know, game design. You know?
Falling to what MacGyver said is, if they gave us the ability to build an itching ass ship, it would have been a million times better.
Yeah,
just like in Starbound.
Yeah, like if you could drive like
Starbound's a dope game.
ships or something like that, then it'd be fun, because they like, you know, rub their dick to that space combat, and it was not good.
Oh, cursing the stream.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah.
I curse a lot, and
no, I do too. The cops are coming though, so it's fine.
It's dramatic.
Lee, you said you had to say something else.
Well, actually, MacGyver said he wanted to say something. Before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
By the way, can we get F's in the chat for the people that have spent like 16 of these on No Man's Sky?
Oh no.
If you guys can find copies of physical copies of No Man's Sky and send them to me, I'll plaster them on my wall here.
You should make a desk
like
out of them.
Nailing them straight into the drywall.
So No Man's Sky is huge. So No Man's Sky is a big game.
Big.
Big
Perhaps
as the ocean, shallow as a puddle.
That's true. and I was gonna say, the game is big, and to me, the game gives me the impression that it's a desert.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about places I want to go to a theme park rather than a desert.
Yep.
Because for several reasons.
I'm lagging out a little bit. Apologies.
And I wanted to use Banjo-Kazooie as my main example for this.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind that game is that every single world has some sort of centralized landmark or location. Like the first world has a giant mountain as its primary landmark. The second world has a giant lighthouse and like cove. The third one has a giant, you know, trash whale. I don't know why, but it does. And the interesting thing about these worlds is that everything is just completely designed around that central landmark, and it's all within, here's the big one, reasonable walking distance.
Yep. Because the only way to get around is by is walking. I just want to point that out for later, okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm. And to me, I like that sort of design. Because with a sort of like centralized theme and having everything within walking distance, I think it can lead to better pacing, better design, and the most important thing, less taking time to get to the place that you want to go, which is the case with No Man's Sky.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because of
that
how large
actually
the
is
world
a case in to be made in Assassin's Creed game too, because the map is and actually there's an update coming out soon that adds like 20 something new fast travel locations, because there are certain missions that require you to either get on your horse, which I never used the horse because the horse had this weird mechanic of it path finds to the roads really bad, and I don't like it. I played a lot of Red Dead 2, and I like that horse mechanic. But in this one, it was like the horse was always a constant pace, and then you could tell it to follow the road and follow a path to the objective. But I just ended up running there on foot because then I could kill lions and people and come across stuff. But there was big travel times, like 5-10 minute runs to some of these places from a fast travel point.
Right.
So,
and I think the fact that you're mentioning that, like, you know, your character's movement is more inherently fun than a quote-unquote vehicle's movement, you know, speaks volumes about the game design, right?
the horses feel like an afterthought because it's like it only path finds. You don't really get to take it off the road because it'll hang up on a tree or a rock or something stupid, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's interesting that you bring up the idea of fast travel, because fast travel is kind of a complex beast, right? Like, I feel like the fun thing to do is that you want to say, hey, I want to walk here and all that, but sometimes, similar to a theme park, we're going to go back into that, sometimes that cool mountain in the distance,
You can go
far. And
You can climb
go
it.
there.
You can climb.
For
you should probably-
$69.99.
Right, and you can go there, but you should probably take the monorail because it's a lot more convenient and a lot less of a pain to do that.
Love that you use the word
Relax.
convenient. Okay, well, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. And it's just, I can't help but wonder, like, I get the convenience of fast travel, but sometimes it just feels like some of these worlds are just too big, you know? And like, and I also say that because sometimes game mechanics can get in the way of exploring said worlds. And a good example that I wanted to bring up, this is going to be controversial,
Oof.
so get ready. I think mechanics can make open world games less exciting. And a good example of that is the stamina mechanic in Breath of the Wild, specifically for one thing, for running.
Okay.
Two things related to that. In Banjo-Kazooie, the worlds are smaller, and you don't have a stamina mechanic. In Breath of the Wild, the world is about 400 times as large, and you have a limitation on how much you can run. The fact
Right.
that I had to resort to whistle running, which is an exploit in the game, just to...
What are you, a speedrunner?
I mean, I am.
Got him.
But I mean, for Breath of the Wild.
No, I wish. But the fact that I had to use that to simply cut down on travel time for something that basic, just running, really soured my experience of the game.
Well,
Okay, let me tell you something.
I'll ask you this: why didn't you take the horse? Because the Breath of the Wild mechanic, or the horse mechanics in Breath of the Wild, as pointed out by the chat, are probably some of the better horse mechanics.
Right.
Like
Right.
Out there.
just as good as I would say Red Dead's horse mechanics are.
They
And I
also
do
added
use
a
the horse.
motorcycle in Breath of the Wild.
As DLC.
Yeah.
Like if you're running around doing whistle running and you're not speed running Breath of the Wild, you should have been using the horse. I
Right.
just
I think that's debatable, as the horse can't go to every single area in the game.
okay.
Let me put you. I think I have something to. Right. I think the thing is, like, I think there is like two things, right? Coming from Skyward Sword, stamina in Skyward Sword was handled a little bit amateur, let's say, right? And I think because I actually do like the stamina on Breath of the Wild, and the thing is that the stamina for me, as a game design a mechanic, is that it actually was added because of the fact that there's a lot of more verticality in a Zelda, and yeah, it's open world, it's more verticality, but you are not limited by which places you can go because you can climb everything, right?
Right.
There wouldn't be a reason to actually, considering also you can get a full set of clothing that can actually makes you climb double the time more. You can, and they connected the idea of going faster and climbing. It uses stamina together. You know what I mean? Even though climbing, if you stop, you don't use stamina for some reason. I don't know why. But the thing is, like, stamina was added and kept, in my opinion, because of the verticality and the climbing and giving you no limitation on
Right.
where you can go, right? The
Uh-huh.
thing is, like, you will have spent the same amount of time playing Breath of the Wild, even with running full time or not, because Breath of the Wild is designed for you to explore and go and be rewarded for how much time you do exploring, rather than running or worrying about running or how much,
Well, the running gets you to the place
or how much
faster.
fast your weapon can break or not, or something like that, which is like another topic.
Right.
But
the running gets you to that destination quicker. I'm all for the stamina mechanic, except for running.
Okay, that's fair.
so every time you play a Zelda, you actually are rolling everywhere.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because it's the fastest way of getting there.
avoids the horses.
But they also, but
Well,
use
when I
Epona
don't have
too
the horse.
on use Epona on Ocarina of Time, right?
Yes,
And you use the
second I
boot
get
on
Epona,
A Link to the Past,
And I
right?
use Goron in
And you use the
Majora's
Goron
Mask.
form in Majora's, but why didn't you use the horse in Breath of the Wild? Because
I do
it's
use the horse
actually
in Breath of the Wild,
okay,
but you can't always use it when you're climbing certain places, and that's the problem. Because if you climb certain areas, the horse, if you whistle for the horse, it can't exactly get there all the time.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Actually, so yeah, okay, fair enough. I want to say something about the vehicles, right?
Sure.
Or that, that desert thing that you mentioned. I think that in Breath of the Wild there are also places that are empty, or there are like basically transitions and connectors between areas. That by design they need to assist. So it's not just like boom, like it's a line and the biome is different and everything is different. You know what I mean? There's obviously this world design that needs to happen, etc.
Hmm.
But I think these things are necessary evils, right? Even if people don't like that shit, like, or even like having a mountain in between places or things like that, as long as the adventure or the trajectory is fun, it doesn't matter how empty the place can be or not. You know what I mean? In my opinion. And for example, and I have an example for this, that Fallout 3 is one of my favorite games, and Fallout 3 has fast travel, but the only way to go around is by running or walking. I actually dislike that. It happened in Fallout 4 too. That you actually need to either fast travel or go walking. And I'm a person that actually like going walking to places and not use fast travel.
I also prefer walking. I don't like using fast travel unless I have to.
Right, it has to be like you need to be playing in groups, or it needs to be like end to end or something like that. But I have done runs specifically in Fallout doing that. Sure, I wish like they have put some sort of vehicle to actually travel faster. But I think also if you, for example, bring to the point of, again, we can bring No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky actually introduced vehicles, and vehicles fucking suck still, And again, and that's why I said in the beginning, I think there is a distinction of we need to separate what shitty games do. Oh, I think I said that for the previous topic. No, it was this topic. What shitty games do, and take it out of the conversation before actually. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, there's still relevance to be seen in those extreme cases, because if it's happened in that, there's still a possibility of it happening in other games too. Regarding the thing that you mentioned with connecting areas, I think Breath of the Wild actually handles it well with its main sort of collectible, so to speak, or with its main sort of thing with the shrines, because the shrines are being done in a manner to kind of integrate that sense of purpose into these connecting areas and make them more valuable in sense of progressing throughout the world, which I like.
Yeah. Okay.
That's,
MacGyver? Oh
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually kind of wanted to go back to narrative and open world, and like between open world and linear. Hopefully I'm not lagging out too much. But basically I wanted to say that in my opinion, I feel like linear game design fares much better for environmental storytelling, because that way you can actually tell a story just by walking through the game. You can see things that have happened. You might find notes going on your journey. So something like Amnesia: Dark Descent and Soma, great games. Can't recommend them enough. But like they're a great example of this. Soma in particular is really good because you go through, and then it also helps tease like things that might be coming up, enemies, monsters, that sort of thing. When it comes to like open worlds and their environmental storytelling, like usually it's only with like specific landmark areas. Like I'm probably going to use GTA 5 as an example. Like you're at Michael's house and you can see that okay, he's kind of a rich dude, and he doesn't really go in the swimming pool much. But
Yeah.
like usually like what I notice in open world games is that the space between like landmarks, like there might not be a whole lot to it. Like Dying Light, for example, like usually in between points there's not really a whole lot. It's just cars all over the place, zombies. Like there's not a whole lot of environmental storytelling in that except for some like minor places.
Yeah, some of
Do
the
you guys
encounters.
agree with that kind of idea that like linear games kind of fare better with environmental storytelling than open
Yeah.
world games?
Because I think the scope of the levels are smaller, which allows you to fit more detail into them. Just like you said with any of the survival horror genre or anything like that. Yeah. And I get it lends itself to the genre of the game as well, more than just the gameplay aspects.
Yeah. Can you like imagine a horror game that's like open world? Is this such
I think
a
it would
thing?
fail because
Yeah.
like the big point of like horror games and linear games in general is that
It's a
the
big
idea
assumption, by
that-
the way.
well, it's the idea that the developer is trying to show you what they want you to see at any given point in time, and if you don't see that kind of thing in like a horror game, or if you aren't like progressing to that point and it's just like completely open, you can miss out on that completely and may not even get scared by that kind of thing. for that
Yeah,
matter.
actually, I wanted to bring up one example of this one particularly interesting horror game. It's this like indie game called Beware, and it has this Kickstarter thing. But essentially, the premise of that game is that it's a horror game where you're in a car and you're driving around in this like Ukrainian-looking place, and the enemies of the game are other people in cars that will chase you. And that's the tension and the scary part of the game. And like I played like a little demo of it, and it's really effective. Like that kind of horror, that kind of tension, that works in an open world environment. As for like storytelling, like I think the game needs a little more progress in like its world. But from what I've seen, it looks promising.
Mhm.
Like just say, I definitely recommend you guys like take a look at it. Chat, go look it up because it's kind of interesting.
Do you guys think Dark Souls games, Bloodborne, are part horror?
Yeah.
For
Oh yeah.
horror, I think Bloodborne.
They have horror
the
themes.
Yeah.
horror-
Of course.
There's some elements in Dark
do you
Souls,
think
but not as
Dark
much.
Souls and Bloodborne are open world?
That's an interesting question.
I haven't really played them, so I can't really say. They looked a little
I
more
would-
Metroidvania to me than open.
I'd classify them under that open zone where you can go anywhere, but those dudes will just one-shot you and then you'll die.
Those games are interesting for several
That's what
reasons.
turned me
because-
off to them. Is
So, I'm going to comment on Bloodborne more so than the other ones. So,
Yeah.
there is some degree of agency in those games, but to some degree, you're not railroaded, but you have to do like certain things before other things to kind of get
Right.
past that.
There's a set goal for every area, right?
Yeah, like you can't get past like I don't think you can go to the forest unless you kill Vicar Amelia, right?
Mhm.
I think
Or
so.
something like that. Yeah. And to me, I think it's in like a similar vein to like the Metroidvania genre. Similar to like
Mhm.
how MacGyver mentioned.
You think
Yeah.
Metroidvanias are open world?
I also was interested in that too, because so we should probably define what we think is an open world before we get into that.
Okay.
Sure.
What do you think?
So
what
my
were you
idea-
referencing to? Also, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, so my idea related to an open world is that I think an open world game primarily revolves around having a relatively open map or areas and being able to have the freedom and where to go for the most part. There are exceptions, of course, even in very large open world games. Some of the exceptions being Red Dead Redemption blocks off certain bridges, like the bridge to Mexico, by story progression. GTA 4 has some islands that are blocked off by story progression. Far Cry
Right.
3 has islands blocked off by that.
By the way, I think every GTA before 5 had East Bluff.
Really?
Yeah, 4
And-
was blocked.
And,
3
and
and
to
San
some
Vice
Andreas
City.
was
degree,
blocked, too.
in Chinatown. Yeah.
and to some degree, even in Breath of the Wild, some areas are blocked off. Specifically, the hot and cold area, because you need certain tools to be able to get to live through them. So, and that kind of like delves into the idea of like ability-based progression versus story progression. And I feel like story progression applies somewhat to Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, quote unquote story, you know?
Right, because you don't actually need to log a new move to actually keep.
Yeah, because it's not
Lurking
ability
around, yeah.
gated.
Fair enough. However, I like to think that Dark Souls and Bloodborne are the actual successful successors of Castlevania games.
I agree.
Right?
I think
Yeah.
Bloodborne a bit more so due to the setting.
Mhm.
Because yeah, themes and setting and theming and setting and at least how things are connected too. Like because everything actually physically is connected within each thing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, and
It's
I
an
think
open world, like with segmented, so to
yeah,
speak.
it's segmented, but it's still connected. Like which is like I think it's very 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 well designed.
Does Bloodborne have a whip?
It does. A cane
It
whip.
does actually the cane whip. Okay. One thing that I wanna mention real quick is oh my god, Wargroove. I was playing Wargroove a couple of weeks ago. It's a tactics game, like more like a Advanced Wars and things like that. I guess that's the genre, right?
Yeah.
Strategy
Yeah.
tactics.
It's
Tactics.
turn-based strategy.
Oof. I do not miss turn-based stuff, right? I do. Oh my god! I just want to say because also the reason I bring it up is because it's very very linear and it's designed as a structure. And we were saying before that it needs to matter. It needs to matter how big or no how good this story is, or how much or how engaged you are. And it's so freaking hard nowadays to actually make a story that can hook you up based on the player behavior nowadays, because I think that's why they're like you can see a lot of games that are popular because nobody has or like most people don't have enough time to play. They want to play a quick match, they want to do this and want to do that, which is also related to the timing thing, I guess. But I think way too much structure actually can break a game, which is actually what happened with me with Wargroove. And because of the story fucking sucks. It's like, oh my god, so someone killed my father, I need to avenge him. There's a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, why will I play this game? You know what I mean? Anyways.
Right.
That's why I play Total War games, because
Yeah.
I get the turn-based, moving my armies around the map, and then when it gets down to it, when I gotta fight that siege battle, I'm out doing the RTS. Here's my gun lines, here's my melee. All right, let's let them charge me. Boom.
Right.
Actually, I remember one of your notes here. Let's switch soon, but as a last point, I want you, Slum, to elaborate a little bit on the Metal Gear Solid 4 versus 5 mission design versus open world thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an action fan. I'm a shooter fan. Big fan of the Metal Gear games, especially Metal Gear Solid 4 was one of those first games I got on the PS3, and just the evolution of Metal Gear Solid is we went from level-based attacks or like level-based, moving forward through it. I'm all thinking here, but you start at point A and your objective is at point C. You have to make your way through point B, and there's like maybe 3 different ways you can go through point B. Whereas in Metal Gear Solid 5, you have the big open map that you get to go to. You get to choose your drop point, and then you kind of can make your own path into some of the levels. And obviously, certain points of entry of some of these set pieces, we'll call them, are more advantageous to stealth. And I always did that game stealth when I beat like what I call the main story of Metal Gear Solid 5, which is up until you defeat the Sahelanthropus, which is the Metal Gear in that game. Because like everything else after that, mission-wise, is harder versions of older missions with certain like, oh, if you get seen, the mission's over type of.
Like some weird ass modifiers to make it harder.
From MGS3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that evolution of the openness to MGS5 created a better stealth game because it just gives you more options for your attack. Obviously, the terrain limits a lot of that in certain points of the game. When you get into the Angola region, there's a lot of ravines and stuff, and you're funneled into it. But there's ways you can, you know, kind of cheese the some of the shots and takedowns if you're looking to do all stealth stuff, which I did. It's a lot of fun. And man, one of my highlights was I came in and I immediately started taking headshots on guys, and one of the you had to rescue these two people, and one of them kind of got up and he runs away, and the guards notice, and then they start looking for him, and at that point you're just like, oh, it's go time because he's out there and I can rescue him. So you're taking out the guards that are following him, and then you know, the other guy's like, oh, he's gonna get transported, shit, I gotta make a run for the car, because they were like getting in the driver's seat, and I was able to get a couple of headshots on him and get him out before he drove away, and then you had to spend another like 10 minutes getting to the next or the second part of it, you know.
You know, I think that there is like one question that I have for MacGyver. Do you think that, you know, I would say like from that you know, concept of Metal Gear Solid 5, or like at least open world, like I guess Destiny is like that too, like there's a bigger world, right, where things are, you know, where things happen, and they place you in different places. Like it's like more like a reusable thing. It's like recyclable. And I don't like using that word because it sounds negative about the design, right? Because depending on what the story you need to tell, you know, you can be placed in different places, you know, in the map, and you know, start the story from there, and you actually traverse whatever you need to go. And for example, or in GTA, right, the story can start in one place, but if it's a, you know, if it's a car chase or something like that, it can end up like in some random ass place, right? Do you think that actually serves positively to the game, or is just, or because the thing is like you can do the same thing with linear, but the thing is like, again, you just need to design it specifically for this mission or this you know, goal that you're designing, right? Like, what do you think?
So sorry, what was like? Can you like?
So do you think actually open world like serves better because it's an area that is recyclable for mission design, actually, because of the story?
You mean like alternate like options in dealing with things, like open world does have a lot of opportunities for that, you know, like with MGS5, it's definitely a thing. What was the one, like Far Cry 3 was like the one that first introduced like all those forts and whatnot, and you could go through them in different ways. Probably the example I'd give with like a linear game of doing something like that is probably 007 Nightfire is one of the earliest ones I can think of, because in that game, like it's a linear experience, you know, it has levels and whatnot. But in the first level, or actually I think it's the second level because there's like a prologue level, but in that level, you know, it's set at a castle, you're outside of a castle, and there's 3 ways to get into that castle. There's like one that's just going in, blasting everybody, getting in that way, and then the second way is to sneak into the castle by getting into a truck that's driving into the castle, right? And then the third way is to kind of go around. So open worlds, they can probably offer a bit more options, but it usually depends on the games. But like usually when it comes to that option, it's either blast everything or do stealth. You know, there's not really like a whole
with stealth option always being the more rewarding action.
Yeah, I mean,
in any game stealth that you take, stealth gives the most reward, and it usually is a little bit more harder to do, but
yeah, usually it's the most rewarded. Yeah, if you have the option, you get the most points usually
in dealing with enemy.
Yeah, I don't think that's the best way to handle stuff, because now every open world will have fucking stealth. You know, like I guess like sure if you are approaching the story as is realistic, you realistically can go stealth and actually take down everyone.
Now
or
that you mentioned it, there's
right?
actually one point I wanted to say, and that's about like pacing, because if you have like every mission that gives you all these options at once, then it can probably feel a little bit tiring, because you might try to do stealth over and over. But I do know with Metal Gear Solid 5 they actually try to mix things up a bit, because I know in that game there's a mechanic where if you approach like one of those forts in a specific way and you do the same thing for other places, then it will actually get harder to do it that way, right?
Right. It was
the dynamic AI.
So like I feel like it's actually a better idea to also like have missions that are like straight, you know, like an action sequence or a stealth section,
right?
You know, just for the pacing of it. And linear games do that well, you know, like not every game has to have like options at every time, because you know you're gonna do the same thing over and over, and that might get tiring. So that's probably a negative I can think of with having options. You know, and Nightfire, like also like after the first, like the other levels are kind of structured in one way mostly, like, you know, stealth, a vehicle section. So yeah, it's kind of like that. And by the way, Nightfire is. And that's I think that's all my comments for the open world topic.
Let's close a little bit. Lee, any closing statements? Let's do it now.
I wanted to like bring up one more thing, but I guess it's too
no.
late,
Okay. Let's do it. Let's do it quick.
Fair enough. So I guess on the topic of like, you know, is recycling things like good for like an open world kind of thing? There was something I wanted to bring up related to the dungeon design specifically in Breath of the Wild. So there's the idea. So to me, when I was playing the game, I was under the impression that they were trying to make it so that it felt like the first sort of experience that you go into a dungeon specifically for each of the 4 divine beasts. And because of that, it didn't seem like there was some sort of like, you know, like sort of progression for them, like here. So
you can cheese all those beasts anyways. So
yeah, like the level designs for those dungeons is like significantly easier, and same for the shrines too. Like we played Zelda games, like none of these divine beasts reach the same level of complexity as some fantastic dungeons in Zelda, like the Stone Tower Temple, which is my favorite, where you're using literally every single of the transformation mask at your disposal to solve the various puzzles, in addition to like the new mechanics that you're getting thrown
Very
into that.
stressful dungeon, I'll say, actually.
I love
because
it.
You have the time on top of you, like, you know, like.
I'm gonna be right back.
Sure. Yeah. And even other dungeons in Zelda, like the Arbiter's Grounds, where you have like the little Tony Hawk spinner and just like you're riding along like the walls of that. None of the divine beasts ever felt like they reached that peak, because they all relied upon like similar gimmicks between either rotating the beast or like altering some sort of like thing within it that affects it. Like, you know, I think the most
there's a
was,
rotation
like,
always of something. Yeah.
Right, like they all revolve around that one mechanic, and I was frustrated because they all felt like the same, and I feel like they're the same because if you're designing a game in this sort of like open world environment, like you need to make it like I feel like the devs needed to make them all accessible if this is the first area that you're going to, and I felt like that hurt the game design.
I think that's a good point. I think like to contrast it, or to help the point, I guess if you compare it to Majora's Mask, which is like 4 dungeons, right?
Right,
Big
that
dungeons.
game also has 4 main dungeons,
and they're like actually exponentially harder, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
The more you progress, you actually use more masks and more items and things like that.
Yeah.
And because it's not 8 like how it usually is or something, they had to make them all, you know, I guess I'll say, I don't want to say good, but they had to make them all more intricate. You know what I mean? More thought out. I guess also they learned from what happened to Water Temple in Ocarina of Time too, which is like they don't have to overcomplicate it, because at the end of the day, you know, it's not that it's hard or unbeatable. It's just that it's annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing with the Divine Beast thing is that we've seen in Zelda, specifically A Link Between Worlds, where like you have the freedom to pick like any of those dungeons to go whenever you want to, right? And that was like a good example of making them all feel different while still feeling feasible if it's like a first choice, you know? Yeah. And like the diversity is there in those dungeons, as opposed to like Breath of the Wild's more you know, gyro-centered dungeons where there's less, you know?
Yeah.
I remember the ice dungeon for Link Between Worlds. I thought that was pretty impressive. Literally, this one vertical level with the elevator. So yeah, that I found that really impressive for some reason.
I was
Yeah,
always a fan of the Fire Temple. I like the verticality of the Fire Temple. You had to go up
Ocarina?
and knock down
I
the
hated that
spike.
one.
Yeah, in Ocarina.
Right. But like that's a good example of like a game being open world but still having like, you know, sort of incremental level design as opposed to it just kind of like plateauing at like the same thing in Breath of the Wild, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that since they don't know where you're gonna go first, all levels, all the divine beasts need to have the same level of, you know, difficulty or puzzle
Yeah,
design,
and it felt like
right?
a step backwards from Link Between Worlds because like I loved how they did it there. Like they're doable, they're challenging, but like they're doable, and there's like quote unquote ideal order, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Would you blame the game because they wanted just to go open world and that's just one of the you know, there's
I mean,
upside
I
downs like
do.
because
I
they
do fault
actually
the game for that.
people complain about not having enough liberty, freedom to go
Mhm.
anywhere they want once they start, and they give the user that, the player. But
Right.
one of the downsides is, hey, we don't know, since we don't know where you're gonna go, we actually need to make the dungeons the staple symbol of Zelda, which people are expecting. We need to, you know, make them, you know, the same level or as simple enough because you don't know what kind of person is playing anyways, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I do fault the game because like we have like a concrete example of it being done before, and it's still working in a successful manner, right? Like I assume this was meant to appease for like newer players because like this game is so radically different from other Zeldas, but it's so wild to just see that like being done in terms of like the dungeons because that's like one of the biggest things in Zelda, right? Like the puzzles, the dungeons, like the difficulty of you know, integrating the use of the new dungeon item to take down the boss and to solve the different puzzles within it. And it's just it's sad to see that lost in that
I
translation.
think that's something that I personally miss using the dungeon item.
Same.
I think that's why Majora is still the best Zelda for me, even though I do have Breath of the Wild like pretty fucking high. And I
Same.
think that was an element that is like, holy shit, that's a Zelda thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fair enough.
And like I understand the complaint of it being formulaic, but like that seemed like a good thing to have, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay. I think that's a good point. To close it for now, right?
Yeah.
Because I think there's obviously there's a lot to say, but we need to move on.
I think we've talked open world to death here.
Yeah, this has been an awesome topic.
it's been a linear conversation.
Oh shit, these puns.
Beer time.
Open up a cold one.
So speaking of which, I'm gonna give Slumlord the floor because I think this topic is not as spicy, I would say, but it's dope. It's not because this is open world shit. You know, I'm telling you, fucking. Right? Yeah. No. Slumlord, take it away.
Yeah. So, within the past year, I've become a physical game collector for the GameCube, the Game Boy Advanced, and some other PS3 titles. And I've just noticed some trends in the gaming market in general for used games and especially physical media. I know the trend is becoming more and more to do digital downloads. It saves costs. They can possibly release games cheaper because they don't have to print it up on plastic and all that whatnot, which is fine. But I think that the retro game collector's market is still alive and thriving. And you see that a lot in the GameCube market, because no matter where you go, whether you're going to a used bookstore, like a Half Price Books type of store that sell Blu-rays and DVDs as well, like you look for the GameCube ones, there's like 2 or 3 GameCubes there, and they're always picked. And that's just something I noticed. And I'll say that I've looked into buying what's it called, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance for the GameCube. And I saw 2 copies of that game come into game stores at about 120 each. I passed on it then, and this past week I saw it in there for $150.
Whopping dollars.
It went up $30 in like 3 months, and I just was like, I want that game, but not at 150. So I guess my topic's kind of twofold. We'll say, are you a physical collector of retro and or current games? And if not, I obviously assume digital. And I'll say, for PC gaming, all digital. There's no point in not doing all digital. But
Who has a disk drive these days?
Right.
I got a USB one.
I do too, actually.
But yeah, if you are collecting any physical, what consoles are you collecting for? And what's your unicorn?
I actually want to start this one.
Yeah.
Because I want to say something. I want to say something to preface everything that I want to. My stance is that digital all the fucking way. Okay, it's 2019, right? The thing is like, okay. I want to be realistic. Okay, I understand. I do like owning things. I do like buying things. You know what I mean? I understand. You know, I like collecting things too. I actually decided. I think that you know the things usually when I collect something, I decide to collect the things that I like, and that happened with amiibos, with pins, with Game Boy Advance games and things like that. And because the thing is like I think ultimately it's about also money as a collector, right? However, there's a convenience factor that digital provides that nothing else provides. I'm gonna contrast it with something I guess you guys can relate a little bit, or some other people, is that opening card packs IRL versus opening card packs digitally, right? Let's put the example of
I think that's
Hearthstone.
a loot box at that point.
Yeah.
No, let's put example of Hearthstone, right? Yeah, like actually card packs on, let's say, the Magic the Gathering was the original loot boxes. You don't know what you're gonna get, right? You're paying and you're gonna get something, right? The thing is like I'm talking about only the factor of the convenience of opening, right? Organizing, seeing what you got, organizing. You need to what do you call it? Sleeve it, right? You need to protect it. Then you're gonna put it in the right order that you want. If you need to go for your deck and whatever, right? There is a contrast, and I mentioned that because, for example, Hearthstone, you just open the pack, it's automatically organized, and you can make, well, I don't want to say infinite decks, but digitally you can just put everything together and mix and match. Like you can have the same card in different decks and things like that. And my point with this is the convenience factor, right? There's a convenience that digital brings in terms of organization, in terms of, the space, because the space is a commodity, and in terms of, let's say the ultra, lazy thing of I'm gonna stand up and just change the disc from my PS4 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh no!
Oh no! I want to stand up. But the thing is, like, I think although with the, obviously there is downsides. I'm saying like nobody knows when Steam's gonna come and say, "Yo, we're closing. You're gonna lose all your games that you have for whatever reason. In 10 years, in 20 years, tomorrow, nobody knows, right?" But the thing is, like, I think it's still worth it, right? That's the first thing I'm gonna say. Okay. MacGyver.
It depends on your consumer rights that you want to give up for digital. Let me just put this out because this falls into what MX said about Steam just going away one day.
Right.
And if you're willing to give up your consumer rights to own a product, fine, go digital.
All the way.
Call me when the Wii shop opens up again, right?
Rip.
That's a good point, actually.
But it sucks that Steam has influenced this weird you own it but you don't really own it type of consumer relationship with these companies and how digital works. And I know
But the thing is, like, it's like that too with everything, right? That's why people don't buy music anymore, because people rather
to argue for GOG and stuff like that too, where GOG actually lets you.
It's DRM free.
Yeah, in their terms of service, it really is stated that you own the game. Where Steam's, I don't know. I'm not gonna pick through people's terms of service to find out if I really
Fair
own
enough.
something.
Fair enough.
Steam has some DRM.
Some, yeah. MacGyver, what's your stance?
Okay. Well, firstly, I'm a big PC gamer, so a lot of my library is digital. I have like over 170 games on my platform. By the way, a lot of your chat prefers physical.
Yeah, I'm
Just
seeing.
wanted
I'm
to say
seeing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
you're getting that.
I'm gonna address it. I'm gonna address it further away. The physical.
Yeah,
thing.
so I am pretty big having a, but I do understand, why people would do a physical library, just to see it. It's a good trophy material. Somebody comes to your house and you can say, "Hey, look at my stuff.
Look at my collection. Yeah.
Look at my
Yeah, look at my games that I own.
Let me show you where I spend my money. You know what I mean? I swear I buy things. Look at them. You know what I mean?
It's like a flex, especially when you're out.
It is a
flexing
flex.
on like GameCube and Game Boy Advanced. When you whip out some of those like good games, you'd be like, "Yeah, dude, I own the physical." And they go, "Oh, damn."
Like, oh shit! Like this is he's a real gamer. You know what I mean? But I wanna say something. RQ before giving it to Lee. Okay.
Sure.
I'm gonna grab a game just for a second.
And as I said before, I do understand the owning. I like collecting things, right? And I collect several different things. But let me say another thing though. I actually understand. For example, there is like at this level of documentation and recording, and people. I do understand, and I do respect, and I do endorse people who collect. Who are collectors, because these are the people that actually care about preservation, right? Sure. And I do understand, for example, speed running on original console and playing with the original controllers, and I do understand it. There's like a certain point of legitimacy, right? And certain point of I don't know, like I know the part of the nostalgia thing, or like playing like how it came out, how it's designed, right? There's also, though, however, the tool of emulator as a tool, and emulator as an instrument for accessibility, right? Is giving new generations, is giving people who could never spend money to access. For the record, Twitch, I don't endorse ROMs, piracy of ROMs, but I'm just saying, like, it gives people the accessibility to say, wow, I have never played this game, or wow, I would love to speedrun this retro game that I have never played. Let me actually, what I do, I just own ROMs of the games I own physically. But like they say, oh, I wanna try it out. I wanna see how it is. Like, I wanna play ROM hacks or things like that. Although you can do that physically too. But I'm saying, like, there's a level of that convenience that that brings to. You know what I mean? That okay, Lee, take it away. What's your stance? What's up?
This is a complicated topic, as I support both sides of this argument. There's a lot of pros and cons to both physical and digital libraries. For me, if I had the choice, I'd probably say, if I can get it physical, I would want it like that first and foremost, for several reasons. The biggest reason, of course, being the idea of resale value. Digital cannot compete with that, period. Because
it's yours technically, it's in your library, and there's no way you can transfer it. They've tried it before. Maybe?
I have never bought any game thinking that I'm gonna resell it. But that's just me.
I do that
Me
a lot.
too. I do follow that ideology. I always was like, why would you go and sell your game back? But
I mean, I know there's people who can buy all the games, and there's people who wanna, oh, I can sell this too and get another one, trade it and things like that, or I can like lend this game to my friend and he can lend me his game or her game, right, and things like that. But just say, okay, go.
Yeah, so physical has your physical game collection is only going to increase in time, and that is largely due, in fact, to the fact that, related to retro games, these games aren't being made for physical copies anymore. The only other means of getting most of these older games, Mario Odyssey, nice. The only other means of getting most of these games legally is for the rare event for these companies to put them on their eShop. And with certain practices that are happening with certain companies, the big N, we keep taking a step backwards related to this, in that we have the eShop built for so many of these classic games, and it's just gone on the next console generation. I find this really frustrating because if we're trying to digitally preserve games for legally for future generations, this is like out of our control for the digital market. And
you know what game I really need preserved is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Falsehood Kingdom on the game.
Big oof.
I'm just making a joke. But yeah.
And I do like the conveniences of digital. There's some inconveniences relating to like your account, like I believe with the DS or 3DS, I think if you lost like that original DS, I think it was like really hard to get like the digital stuff back onto it. And another big criticism I have with digital is that similar to physical games, there can be an instance where it's almost impossible, or quite literally impossible, to get some of these games too if they're digital. With the decline of the Wii store, certain games like Contra Rebirth and Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth are impossible to purchase. And I think that's a big problem with digital too.
Yeah, those games were exclusive, right?
They were exclusive to the Wii Shop channel, and you can't get them without emulation, which is kind of ridiculous. And my other big issue with physical, and I feel like this may be a universal hatred, since most of these games aren't in production and they're not being given digital form, they lead to scalping, which this is like a big topic in and of itself.
It's like the
Oh
big
my
God.
God.
Yeah, and you could just only use Amiibo for that one thing, and we could go on that shit all day, because I know I'm pretty passionate about Amiibo collecting, and I know it is, but yeah, it happened with the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii, the Xenoblade Chronicles. But you know what's funny about Xenoblade Chronicles, though? The price fell after it got announced for the 3DS and its release. The game is actually lower than what I paid for it when I just wanted to have the physical version of Chronicles, and I feel like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, forgetting also Nintendo never actually lowers prices, and that's a new thing for them, giving such big discounts nowadays, by the way.
Yeah.
They usually don't go like $10 less from what
It's surprising that a lot of this conversation about digital focuses around Nintendo, because they are one of the only companies, and I know Sony has done it too, but not to the scale Nintendo did it, because they did it over 2 and now the 3rd generation with the NES on Switch. Like, yeah, my SD cards that have the virtual console games downloaded on, I would be pretty mad if I lost those SD cards. And what I think I downloaded like Mario Party 2 on the Wii U shop. Now I don't even remember, because I haven't even
both Wii U and Wii for that game. I own that one.
And I think I did the transfer from Wii to Wii U so I could have it on my Wii U. But it's surprising that Nintendo has also hurt themselves in a way, and I think this falls to what you were saying about the 3DS, and how when you had the very first gen 3DS, and then the new one came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, dude, we gotta get the new one." You know why? Because it was bigger. And then even on into the new 3DS. I'm talking about like 3DS XL when that came out.
Yeah.
I had to have a 3DS XL.
And even the quite literal new 3DS.
Yeah.
The new, right?
With the C stick or something like that.
What screwed me into getting physical collections for more current stuff for Nintendo products was the fact that the transfer system between 3DSs was not great, and I lost a Animal Crossing New Leaf save file of 350 plus hours where I had all the gold tools. I had, a fully upgraded house. I had a few pictures. I had a lot of the set pieces I wanted.
Nintendo furniture.
And I fucking lost it.
Brutal, indeed.
That saved that. And it haunts me to this day. And ever since that happening, I went on a physical 3DS buying spree, because I was doing digital only up until that point. and that has kind of carried on into how I treat my Switch, because at the very beginning of the Switch's life cycle, Nintendo had no plans for transferring data. And now they got a cloud system, which is all fine and good, but Nintendo has always lagged in that department of actually doing backup saves. Hopefully they can continue with it. But
I'm gonna tell you something. I want to bring two things real quick. Soso said, in the ideal world, in the perfect world, all physical copies of games will come with digital copy. I absolutely agree. But let me tell you something, Slum. Let me put you an example.
yeah,
Let me give you all example, okay? Sit down there. No, I'm just kidding. Let's say there is no digital games at all, and everything still releases on physical, right? And let's say you are like, oh my god, I love my GameCube. You know, I like to play on my GameCube, and I go and play Melee, and I go and play Mario Sunshine, and I go and play Metro Prime. Oh shit, but I need to use memory cards. And then one day, the memory cards gets fucked.
which happened to me.
And you are like, oh, but I like physical. So what happens then?
I mean,
How different is it than like a hardware
it
failure?
just
Wait, let me
Memory cards are
get
just
out of
a
the
product
frame.
of their time.
yeah, memory cards are a product of their time, and it sucks that we had to rely on it. And
What password systems?
I do want to say a thing about like games preservation.
Yeah.
Because like when it comes to like physical like games and even hardware, like it's something that tends to wear out over time. Like I think probably some of you guys have heard that like some NES games like nowadays like have been starting to like wear down, like even SNES games, because some of them they have like batteries inside and the batteries can die, and when they die then well that messes with the games. So like probably like a pro for digital is that like if the software is still available from the hardware, then it can be ported into digital, and that's why like for ROMs, for example, like obviously like you shouldn't do piracy, but also when it comes to like games that you can't even get normally, like movie licensed games, for example, GoldenEye 64 is a huge example, and that's like a game that will never be remastered, never sold. You know, I mean they remade it, but that's not going to be resold ever again. And like to get a physical copy of GoldenEye 64 is probably expensive. Like my brother got an N64 with GoldenEye, so we do have a physical copy. But like I can understand like maybe like, you know, emulating GoldenEye 64 for that reason. And then there's like some like obscure games that that you can't really get anymore. Like for example, I got this game called Jurassic Park Trespasser, and it's this rare game. Like to get physical copies of is probably expensive, and also they don't even run on modern hardware. So the only way to really play it is by downloading a game off a website which offers like a patched version, and then that's how you play. That's the only way to access it. You know, it's a rare game. It's you know, not the greatest game. Like it had plenty of flaws at the time. I mean, it was literally like the Crisis of its generation, because you know the whole Crisis meme.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to say that, like, because physical can wear down. You know, like the GameCube is not gonna work forever, and memory cards are probably not gonna like work as well, because they run on like how does their memory get stored? Is it like chemical or magnetic? I think
no, it's ROM. It's like ROM based, so it's ones and zeros. It's just written to a chip.
Yeah, so like that stuff can wear down, and I can see like where digital comes in to try to save that. And,
Yeah,
like,
muted MX.
one more thing about Nintendo, actually. Like, I just want to like ask you guys. I know I'm going on a little bit, but
No, it's all good.
Hey, listen!
I like what? Okay. But basically, I saw this one video, you know, about somebody talking about how Nintendo handles their older games for like SNES and NES and whatnot. And at the end of this video, the guy was suggesting, like, what if Nintendo made like a website for like kind of a subscription service like Netflix, you know, where you stream Nintendo's old games, and it would be through a website. it would be through a system or a platform that isn't like exclusive to just Switch. Like, would that be something that would be good? Because I think, like, when it comes to games preservation, accessibility is really important.
Yeah,
So what do you guys
100%.
That would be great, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever see that happening, to be honest.
I mean, I do like where Nintendo was thinking with like having Nintendo on having that NES app on it, where you can play like any NES game, like, and just paying Nintendo Online. Like, you don't have to pay to get the NES games because it's right there.
Yeah.
Like, I do like that, but when it comes to like when the Switch like goes out and they have the next system, like, where's that gonna be?
Yeah.
It's gonna probably end up the way of the eShop, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the
don't know.
website idea is
The
pretty
Wii
brilliant.
Shop.
It would be, right? And
Yeah.
wouldn't it be grand if Nintendo actually sold their controllers from their website? Like, if I could go right now and buy a new, like, legit from the original mold GameCube, controller.
The only people who do other company does that? Do Microsoft sell all Xbox controllers and Sony those the old controllers?
Microsoft does, and so does Sony from their websites. And
The current controllers.
Yeah, well, they're huge companies that also have TV manufacturing, computer manufacturing. Like, they have the infrastructure on the back end to facilitate them selling it. Nintendo is like the only games company that doesn't sell their own product on their website. Like,
Oof.
I don't even know if you can buy the games from Nintendo.
You can buy now. You can buy eShop from website now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and download directly.
I'm talking like hardware.
Yeah.
We're talking legit OG, GameCube controllers. Like,
Well, like that's the problem because like the console isn't even being manufactured anymore, right? So
Yeah, one question about that, like, I don't think Nintendo would like resell or start manufacturing old hardware to put on their website. I mean, maybe if they like a bunch of stuff in their storage, maybe, but like
Yeah.
if they want to make new controllers, then that's only would be like an occasional thing. I mean, if they do make like an N64 mini, then they'll probably have to bring back that weird boomerang controller,
Yikes.
whatever it was.
like the best equivalent for the GameCube scenario. I mean, it like the only option really is like the Smash Ultimate GameCube controllers that they've made.
and
just
luckily I
because,
have
like,
one in box, just chilling, but I haven't opened it yet because I'm still using my OG. Like, luckily I still have 3 in relatively good condition.
Right.
That package controller is probably going to be worth a lot if you keep it in the packaging.
It's probably
Well,
worth $60 on Amazon.
Yeah,
Well, after time,
they we're going up to like 80 on Chaos Control just for like the base controller.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to say one thing before I want to give Lee. I know you have a comment about the e-manuals too. Manuals and
One,
e-manuals.
yeah.
Sorry, what you said?
I was saying, yeah, it's just a small point on that one.
I want to make a small point too. Like actually, I think we are far away to actually get rid of digital, physical fully, anyways. Because also there is communities and cities, with limited internet, or people with limited internet connection, slow speeds for download, and underdeveloped, countries and things like that will not always have a connection to actually, or a fast connection to actually, still download like that. I think we need to get past like basic problems to actually say, oh, does this make sense to actually go full digital, like as a company too, like for profit and for, less use of plastic or things like that. But the thing is also that goes against like, okay, we need to still figure out how we're gonna handle how fair it is to just sell something digital, and how we're gonna handle legally, the preservation of it. Like, oh, and it's not about making promise, it's about legally, hey, we will, like, let's, for example, I'm gonna put 2 examples. Nintendo Online, we are gonna have the NES and NES library by year 5, right? Like full library. But by year 15 or by year 20, we're gonna shut it down. Right? One example. And then the second example comes and they say, however, for the new system, right? Which is like most systems are now PC based anyways, and that that actually helps with emulation and development and things like that. Say if you buy the new system and the new system has an online and you pay for it, you can still have the library. But the Switch one that you got, you can't do it on the Switch anymore, right? Let's say. Do you guys think that's I mean, I personally think that eventually we'll get to that point that say that we can keep bringing libraries in between systems, at least in the console side, right? We're thinking about what's going to happen with Steam or, other like libraries on PC or things like that, which I think are riskier to, for worse things to happen. You know what I mean? Like fucking Bethesda can fucking go bankrupt and then you lose the ability to download and things like that.
One can only hope Bethesda will go bankrupt.
Or Bethesda.
But the thing is, like, again, like now every company, it happened with cable too. Wow, everyone is moving away from cable, and everyone's moving to Netflix. No, what I'm gonna do is make my own service. I'm gonna put my shows there, and now you have to pay for it, right? So every company has their launcher now. Hopefully Capcom doesn't do it, or fucking other companies like that. The Capcom is actually taking more seriously PC games and things like that, because they always said, oh, consoles are better, whatever, But the thing is, like, again, I think there's a lot of things that need to happen for things to be fair, at least, or to, for example, as people say, maybe they still sell it physical. Well, you can get a digital copy too, and just in case anything happens, in case there's no, let's say you have a handheld device and and you want to play it on the go and things like that. But things like, who actually will grab, if you had a digital copy, a physical copy, you'll keep it home. You'll keep it in your collection and you'll bring your digital with you, because at the end of the day, it's just more convenient. You know what I mean? And it can evolve to that, to actually favor the user more. Lee, I know you have a little bit about the e-manual thing that you wanted to mention.
Yeah, there was kind of a brief point I wanted to mention about that. I was going to say we're already kind of seeing signs that I feel like developers are kind of like moving toward like a sort of digital kind of thing in mind. A good example was actually that copy of Super Mario Odyssey that you have, MacGyver. Can you open it for us?
I want to talk about this. So
Can you,
I just want to say
it,
something about modern physical copies, because you got this. It's a nice packaging on the outside. It looks great, all this stuff, and then you open it up on the inside.
No
it's
manual.
Like, what the fuck is this? I mean, it's got some nice back printing here, for some extra stuff, but it's like a bunch of plastic, and then you got your little game just right there. Like, where does the money go into in an $80 physical copy? Like, it feels like $20 of it just goes into the casing.
Right.
Actually, legit, I think that costs like maybe
this, by the way.
50 cents. I think it costs
Really?
to make that the handprint and the plastic.
Still tastes bad.
They coat it in that fucking bitterol or Bitrex shit.
Well, hey, it keeps the kids away, so.
But like,
Yeah.
I think that box is like such a good example, right? Because like back in the day, we had like these giant like Super Nintendo boxes, right? They came with the cartridge, and you know what else they came with? They came with a manual, and a very nicely detailed manual with like very beautiful artwork. Like Earthbound was such a good example of that. There you go, manual. That was like what, 2 or 3 console generations ago.
Well, so this is the Xbox. So this is the classic D size, the classic Blu-ray size, and then you got the classic, the Switch size here.
Like what is this, right? Like I get the point of it for the Switch, because like the things are like really tiny, but it's just so much space for like something that tiny, and then you don't even get a manual. Like, what's the deal with that?
I mean,
it's such low effort.
I disagree with the manual thing. I don't think it's like whatever. You can make it digitally inside the game.
I'll say this about like manuals just in general. Manuals for new games, I don't give a shit about. But you know what I do care about manuals for? Are here. Oh, you know what? Here, manuals for my GameCube collection. Like, so
And
here's
why
my
do you care
copy
about
of
them?
Eternal Darkness, right?
And
I was lucky enough to find this bitch with the manual. A lot of what I've seen when you buy this stuff online, it's just a fucking loose disc. And boy, I do not feel comfortable buying that shit. And if you're able to find, items in store with the manual, that's the shit you should jump on.
But the thing is that you're talking about as a collector perspective, not as a. You don't want it for any other reason, do you? You just want to have it complete.
For some games, you need the manual just to play the game. A good example of that was Metal Gear Solid 1.
They don't do that anymore with
something.
games. They don't do that anymore with games that
Yeah.
they put something in the manual that is actually crucial for the gameplay. Right?
But like,
That's what with the evolution of games, they actually added the crucial information that you need in the game.
yeah.
As a tutorial or as a learning experience, as a leveling or as a learning curve, that you actually wouldn't need a manual besides just for providing the value of,
But like,
I mean,
the thing with
I'm
that,
not saying I hate them. I'm saying like
No, I feel
they're
you.
dope, right?
The thing with that is that I loved the idea of that because like it's making the game more immersive by like that's like one of the earliest instances of like an augmented reality game, right? Because you're going outside of the game to find a solution for something within the game, and like something like that is like so like mind-blowing to me that the developers even thought of that, in addition to all the really good like well-detailed artwork that's like within the game and clever wordplay too.
Yeah,
I'm a writer.
but
Can I mention one thing I miss about game manuals? By the way, so this is my Sly Cooper collection, PS2. It's
Mhm.
like the Bible of my childhood. But anyway, the thing I loved so much about these games on the outside is that it actually feels like they put stuff into it. But then, like, I'm not sure if you brought this up because I missed what you were talking about, but these manuals that look like they come out of the game, and like this is a Thievius Raccoonus, it's like a important book from Sly Cooper games.
It's so immersive.
And you go inside and it's like look at this. You got the signature on there, you got
Yep.
all these drawings, and it makes you feel like you're in this world. And this
Reminds
is
me of the
kind
Uncharted booklet. Was like a map, like at the book, like that Drake
I
had
could
that he
probably
like
bring
put
a-
drawings and shit.
I could probably bring out like Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb because it had like a similar instruction booklet. It looked like a diary, and just that kind of charm I missed from physical collections.
And it's the same for me. Like that was such a good incentive to like go physical. Like the fact that you're buying physical and you aren't even getting like a basic thing that like was pretty much like promised to you since like
I
the
love
outset
this
of
record,
gaming.
by the way.
It's just like
No,
why?
the thing is that it's not
It's
promised to
like-
you. What's promised to you is the game.
Yeah, but like the manuals came with practically like every game.
yeah,
But the thing is like
So
I think
it's
that's
sort of
just
like
a product
complete
of how
package.
I think they're just a product of how the games have changed. Like it's like the new era, like like they don't provide that anymore. That again, I think because it's all the information that was that
Do you
the
think it's-
manual was trying to give as a as a guide is giving in the game now, right?
Yeah, that was I was about to say that. Do you think that developers have gotten better at teaching you about the game as you play it and making it feel like
It's a more like
like-
an experience, right?
yeah, like more than just, hey, you press the A button to pick this up, press the B button to put it down. Because I'm just now thumbing through, the Animal Crossing booklet that I have. This is all like, this is what the game guide looked like, because I've seen the old game guide for this, and it's just on the same fucking level, as the game guide would have been.
Yeah, that is a
But-
good point.
That game didn't teach you stuff as you played it. You were kind of like, well, you just kind of pick things up with B, and then you move around your inventory, and then you just talk to people.
Right.
I guess it's because there's not a lot of mechanics to Animal Crossing as a whole, but I think for other games they've gotten better at teaching you how to play the game as you go through it.
I think ultimately, I think the best world it will be just include a digital manual, and people can designers can still have it and design it and make it, right?
Yeah, and that is the substitute. But I want that paper, dude.
Yeah, I
Feels
mean, I
better.
get it.
You know what Egon
Yeah.
said? Print
When
is
I'm
dead.
collecting for GameCube, I always prioritize copies that have the manual. Sorry to cut you off, MacGyver.
No, I was just saying, like, I was just quoting Egon because he said, "Print is dead." Rest in peace, Harold Ramis. By the
Rip.
way, can't wait for Ghostbusters 3. That's
Rip. Damn, that's true, Egon. Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. We are at 11:50. And we have one topic left. Okay, I don't want to cut it out. Are you guys good on time so far?
Yeah.
It's
I
a big
can go.
yikes.
I can stretch it a bit.
I can
A
go.
bit.
I have a class at 11:45 tomorrow, but I think I can make it.
You're good.
How much
No,
time
you're
you
good.
got, Slum?
Whatever. Let's just keep going.
Brace
Keep
yourself for
rolling the
next half
ball,
hour.
man. Let's keep going.
I already had dinner, so
Okay.
let's go.
No, I mean,
Whatever. I'm drinking now. We're in hangout mode.
You
If
are
I
in
get
it,
yelled
okay.
at, I don't give a fuck.
okay. This is a topic that we had in the last podcast, but we couldn't actually that we brought to the last to the last episode, and we couldn't like talk about it because of time. And it can get spicy, right? But I think it's about more doing things right and common sense, right? Right? And
Yeah.
we don't have to go
this is
too
a
long. We
touchy
can do like
subject.
30 minutes or something, or 20,
Yeah,
right?
we shouldn't be able to get sidetracked by this topic.
Right.
I think.
But the thing is, like, I do have a controversial stance on this, and which is like,
Take us away then.
I'm gonna tell you, is DLC.
Rant.
It is not necessary, absolutely not necessary, and it creates the idea that games needs to be released faster, or need to get bigger and better every time they're released with time, right? Like that, the idea that every game you need to be engaged with it for a year, and you need to wait, and you're gonna have content every 3 months, and you're gonna have this new thing to collect, and you're gonna have this new area to explore and things like that. And with that, what type of games actually benefit from DLC, or what type of game, like, how do you like games as a platform, right? In kind of like environment and culture that we are today, you know? MacGyver. Oh, you want to go? No, go.
MacGyver.
I can go. Well, firstly, I prefer my games to have a lot of content in it that's actually meaningful, well paced, well put together, and hopefully not a buggy fucking mess. that would be nice. But like
Fingers crossed.
in terms of like DLC, just as a normal thing, like I don't mind if it's like a really like minuscule or like tiny thing. Like even if it's like a pre-order bonus or something. Like Resident Evil 2 Remake is probably an example I can give, because that's a game that has, you know, like the full price $80 Canadian game, but it also has the deluxe edition for an extra $10. And like in the deluxe edition, it comes with a few costumes, you know, for Leon and Claire. It comes with a couple of DLC weapons. Like they don't really do much, but it's, you know, it's not really necessary to have. And then there's a music swap function, which some could probably argue that that could be like an unlockable, but like in this case, it's like, hey, if you like this game, you know, buy the music changer, listen to the old music in the game.
Nostalgia.
So that's probably one example I can give. I know there's like people that prefer to have all that stuff in the game already, but like if it has to be some minor stuff, then I don't mind something like that, just some cosmetic things. But if you're cutting like huge content, then yeah, I don't like that.
I'll counter your argument for the music specifically and
Okay.
say that what if the producer of the older music for the original wants them royalties, boy? That's why you gotta pay.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that
I
music
didn't think of that.
can fall under that sort of category.
That
And
makes
I'm
sense. Just
just
the copyright of it, like that's
yeah,
kind
the
of a specific
copyright,
situation.
lawyers, you know, all the
hmm
you know.
But can I say one more thing? Like, as
Yeah,
games
yeah.
as a platform or a live service, as Jim Sterling usually says, I tend to extremely disagree with that kind of DLC practice, because usually that ends up with games that are so empty in terms of content, and it turns into this repetitive thing. Okay, see like 80% of the looter shooters ever made, okay, including Anthem, big one, you know, everybody loves loading screens. But yeah, I don't like that, because it's all about first impressions, okay? Like if you want a game to like really get into, then the first impression has to be good, you know. You can't just have one or two things that are good. Like you can have like neat gameplay or flying mechanics that work okay, but if the rest of the game is crap, like if there's missing story or just missing content, and that's that's not what I agree with. Ethically, morally, I do not agree with that kind of practice. You know, it never works. You know, you can't have like RuneScape and then just have like Lumbridge and Draenor. You can't do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. And then have the rest of it like for development later. You have to have the full foundation right then and there. And I guess like Witcher 3
unless
is
the
great.
game is actually in beta or open access and things like that.
Yeah,
right?
if it's like an early access and it's something indie, then I probably wouldn't mind buying something like that if the game itself is already like really promising and if it's already getting frequent updates. You know, Space Engineers was a good example.
It's interesting you brought up Witcher 3 though. That
Oof.
the Heart of Stone happens within the original game map, and Wine and Blood is its own game map. So you can say that they had designed the original game map, which is enormous, and then chose to place story elements within the map that weren't fully, let's just say they hadn't gotten around to the voice acting part of that part yet. But they had the house, they had the Von Elric house there, they had the garden that you go to, and all the other stuff. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't played Witcher 3. Again, it's been out for,
spoilers.
I'll be honest, I haven't bought my pre-orders yet.
But and then Wine and Blood got its own huge map, and I think DLC is a very, it's either it's done right or it's done wrong. There's very few games that fall in the middle where it was kind of good, it was kind of not, because you can take games like Witcher and say, yeah, oh great,
Excellent.
totally worth the money on the DLC. And you can take games like Splatoon like Splatoon and Splatoon 2, where DLC is an actual expansion. It is its own campaign, plus they were also giving free updates for new guns to keep players interested, new maps. They were bringing back all the old Splatoon 1 maps, and the only reason I'm passionate about Splatoon 2 is because I've been playing the fuck out of it lately with all the boys. Shout outs.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about Splatoon. So.
If you haven't played it, you got to be playing it. It is.
I haven't, but it's
such a fantastic shooter on the console, and you have to play it with motion controls. If you're doing twin stick, you're handicapping yourself for that game.
Interesting. Good to know.
Well, I only got Joy-Con, so I'll enjoy it.
Lee, I know you were gonna say something.
Yeah. So I wanted to raise something because you think DLC is unnecessary, right? Let me blow your mind for a second. Let's consider it like this. What do you think is worse? DLC versus the original alternative? Multiple versions of the same game. And
What do you mean multiple versions of the same game?
so like sort of like expanding upon like the game. And I like to use Street Fighter 2 as the example for this.
Okay.
This was essentially, I know Slum has some thoughts about this that we
Turbo
discussed
Edition.
before. So the idea is that each of these different versions, in addition to like tweaking various mechanics to the game, it adds more characters, adds more stages, it adds more options that you can do. And this was essentially like the equivalent of DLC back in the day. Except the big difference is, rather than having to buy, let's say, I don't know, maybe like a $5 character, you have to buy an entire game, which is ridiculous.
With 4,
And-
they just started like releasing characters, and then they still release the game balanced
Right.
with the new updates. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, to me, if we're looking at DLC from this perspective, I think it's definitely better than the original alternative of having like new iterations of like
Okay,
a similar game.
But
I'm gonna raise you one better. Okay.
Well,
Go
hold
for
on, MX.
Yeah.
Let me
Slum's
throw
gonna
in
wait for this one.
that Lee just using Street Fighter 2 as an example is probably one of the poorest examples out there.
I was gonna say the
because-
same thing.
Why?
Because
gonna
of the
say the same
mechanic
thing.
changes
Intense.
between each of the iterations. And I think what you probably would want to use in that argument would be the Half-Life 1, Blue Shift, Opposing Force, and then Team Fortress Classic. Even though like Team Fortress was the multiplayer version, and you can watch a million lore style videos on the development of all these things. But I think that would support your argument more than Street Fighter 2 because
But it's adding more content to the game.
but the mechanics are different.
Okay,
Okay.
let me put you the example. I think Islam, you bring a great point, but let me put you another example that is related to that. I'd rather have you. Let's talk about The Witcher again, right? Your camera is on focus. There you go. The future
Hello?
I'm gonna let it do it.
There we go.
I'd rather have no. Let's use the sample of Bloodborne that you have played, right? I think no, we all have played The Witcher anyways, but Bloodborne, right? I play Bloodborne, and you guys know this, that from start to finish, even DLC, platinum, whatever, you know what I mean? Everything. I love the fucking game. What I'm gonna tell you is this: I'd rather than them or a company wait until the DLC until that extra content is done, put it in the game, and charge me more. Like, let's say, charge me $70 or charge me the 60, right? And I'd rather wait a year more before the company says, no, this is actually the definitive edition, and then put out the game again for me to buy. Like, the thing is, like, the practice of Capcom doing it, the thing is, like, taking outside the balance changes, right? Some games require, and digitally nowadays is an advantage of having the ability to update games because you can patch bug. Games are bigger, you need it, like, oh my god, I cannot play it, whatever, different machines, etc., right? Besides from that aspect, I'm talking more about the content, right? It's like, wow, like, how slimy fuck you need to be, I mean, not you mean the company, right? To actually say, we have all this content, ready or planned, but you need to keep playing the game to make sense. Like, every 3 months we're gonna be releasing more things. Like, no, dude, delay the game for a year more and sell me the game complete, and I buy that instead of me saying, oh, I need to buy DLC now because I love the game. You know what I mean? Like, that's my argument more than the Street Fighter. Like, the Street Fighter, if they keep releasing, like, okay, like back in the day, sure, like, but the thing is, like, nowadays though, Street Fighter 5, right? I think, do they already have the Super Street Fighter 5?
They have, okay, Street Fighter 5 is different. I was going to also mention that because Street Fighter 5 is kind of the representation of games being looked at as a platform / a lifestyle game.
Yeah.
With the
A
other example,
lifestyle game?
a lifestyle
Yeah.
game, yeah. That's a term for it. And
Okay, I'm with it.
and the
I think
idea
I
of
I think I can go one up.
okay,
All right,
Yeah.
so you guys know Halo 2, right? Halo
Yes.
2 had this expansion to it in the form of another game. Like, it was a new game, but essentially, like, it was kind of an add-on to add to Halo 2, and it would add more maps and, like, I think new game modes. But yeah, it was essentially like a big map pack in, like, a physical Xbox case. So, yeah,
Okay.
that's the thing. Yeah, I know it was
So-
just one notch.
it's all good. So related to the Street Fighter thing, I think that the way things have changed have been for the better, because regardless of whether it was a good example or not, the fact of the matter is that regardless of how similar the game is, it's essentially being treated as downloadable content to some degree because it is adding things to the game, right?
Yeah.
And you're paying $60 for each of those, or however much you paid for those. With Street Fighter V, there are 2 versions of the game. You have Vanilla and you have the Arcade Edition. The
Right,
differences
right.
between those is that Vanilla version comes with what the game originally came with, but it allows you the opportunity to unlock more of the characters by simply playing the game and earning currency within the game. The Arcade Edition comes with all these DLC characters. They mentioned from the outset they didn't want to have as many versions as they did compared to prior Street Fighter games to avoid consumers having to buy that many versions of it. And to me, that was almost like the company admitting that maybe their prior method of providing more content was probably the wrong way to go about it.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I think I guess I asked about Street Fighter 5, but I would say, like, Street Fighter 4. I used to be in this fighting scene, when Street Fighter 4 was out, and I think it was like Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4, and Ultra Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
Right. And like all of them like have more. I think they added something about additions to the EX mechanic, balances, more characters and things like that.
There's also
I'm
arcade
like, wow, I'm
edition
gonna
for
keep
it.
buying this game, because they just keep adding shit, like. However, like I get it, like if a year later or two, like I guess what pisses me off, or what I think is unfair, is that, for example, having a game like Destiny, that for example they say, oh, Destiny is gonna be a 10-year game, we have a plan for it. I remember, oof,
I was curious
You
about
got
that too.
scammed by Destiny, by the
big
way.
oof, and there's,
I
oh
assume
my
they
god,
got that
no,
with the-
actually 2 years later, oh, we're actually developing Destiny 2.
I'm sitting here biting my tongue, and you know what? I'm gonna say, with going back to what MX said about releasing definitive editions. Well, you know what? You might as well throw your Nintendo Switch out the window. Nintendo got you twice for at least 5 games. They got
You're
you
right.
twice for Breath of the Wild. They got you twice for New Super
Wait.
Mario Brothers U. They got you twice.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
It had a
it was
Wii U
on
port.
Wii U and Switch, and I
Oh.
own both.
No, but they came out at the
It's
same
not
time for
fundamentally
both.
different,
It's like Twilight Princess, that for GameCube and Wii.
Either
Right?
way,
It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's
The
okay.
Breath of the
okay,
Wild is
okay.
not. Mario Kart.
Mario Kart,
So-
New Super Mario Brothers U, Pokken,
Pokemon. Oof. Got him.
Bayonetta 2.
Got him.
That one's not that.
Yeah,
different,
it is
though.
on Wii U, because I own it on Wii U and I also own it on Switch.
Okay.
I can go
I
grab
think-
that box right now because
I think
have
the only instance of those games that's like fundamentally different, though, in terms of like gameplay wise, in terms of what they're adding, was the Mario Kart one, because they changed how the game worked with the double item system.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
There's no
but
double
That's like
items
a
anymore.
legitimate change.
but
right.
they
Oh,
did get
that's
you
true.
with exactly the same game as Pokken DX and gave you some downloadable content with it.
It's like, no, they
Exclusive to
did with
that
Smash.
version?
They included, well, I think Smash is a. I don't want to say Smash is not a port. I don't want to say also Smash wasn't a good deal, because I fucking love Smash.
Ultimate
right?
is not a port.
It's not a
Ultimate is
port.
not.
No, I'm
No.
saying I'm not gonna say it's a port, because I remember some people reading when Smash was announced, and when Sakurai was saying like everyone's here, and because it was even including DLC characters from Smash 4, and in new characters and everything was fucking rebalanced from scratch, and all that shit,
The physics
Um,
changes too.
and the physics and everything, which is like a big thing, I'm saying like it's, I think it's a special case, right? Because it includes everything. It's like saying, oh, if we put Guile in Street Fighter 3 or Ryu, like it's not actually porting Ryu from Street Fighter 2. It's just, it happens because of the nature
Well,
of
they have to be made from the ground up with the new
Right,
engine in mind.
right.
Oh yeah, this game, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition on both
Yikes.
too, as well.
Good thing I don't
But
like
that
those
was also
games, because
Ryu.
I didn't buy them in any.
Oh, I was a fan of these games, man. Hyrule Warriors is probably the best Dynasty Warriors game on the market.
Fair enough. I can see
Not
that.
saying much though.
I don't know.
We're still on the topic of DLCs.
Yeah, go.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I've just prepared a little chart here, but essentially, those fucking DLC charts for all those editions and shit? Well, fucking shit like this should not exist, okay?
The
Fucking
classic
Ubisoft, they need to
card.
stop this shit, okay? They do it with Watch Dogs, with like Assassin's Creed Odyssey
I
is
read
even a
that.
victim of this crap.
Yep,
But
yep.
like, I just
Every-
made up shit.
Every
bottomless thing,
Ubisoft
fuck you.
game has a chart like this because they sell at minimum 3 editions and at max like 5.
Oh my god, that's so
Yeah.
funny.
So
It's
all those
so
DLC
bad.
editions are ridiculous. And like,
You spend
it's-
20 minutes trying to figure out what content you get in one version compared to the other when you're looking at these charts. Like, do I get the digital deluxe edition or do I get the gold edition? What's better? You know what sounds better? The digital deluxe edition sounds better than the gold edition
Yeah.
because it's deluxe.
in this case, if you get the ass edition, you can get your mom and fuck you.
Hell
Oh my
yeah!
Shit, you can get Dingus and
The dingus. The
Yeah.
expand dong.
fuck you. And with the fuck edition, you get everything.
You can get everything.
else.
Hell yeah!
Yeah. I
There's an
will say one
example.
thing, by the way.
Mhm.
I remember Deus Ex: Mankind Divided
Yikes.
had one of the most god-awful pre-order marketing schemes I've ever seen. It was essentially where you augment your pre-order, and what this meant was that like you would buy specific editions to kind of vote on something. I forget how, like what you voted on, but essentially it would be like, oh, if there were more votes for this, all this content would be in. If there was more votes for that, all this content would be in. And if it was like one or the other that won, then the other one would just get scratched out. It's literally cut content, and it was a huge controversy at the time.
I remember, yeah, they had
That
to
still seems
retract and do
controversial
shit.
now.
I never asked for this.
Yeah, so companies don't ever do this. Just
Yeah, you know, the thing is, like, I have a comment about the pre-order thing that I always said that if you include it in the game and give me a way to get it, I think it's fine if you want to offer something for whatever. I'm not gonna pre-order. Some people want to pre-order for whatever reason, either preload or because they love the game. They know they're gonna for sure gonna buy it anyways. Even though if I'm for sure gonna buy it, I'm bought into the hype, which I have done it. Like coming back with Thomas Sky, right? No, but I have done it. Like, for example, I will say even if I'm not gonna get it, I get it the first day instead of the day before. I don't pre-order. Like, fuck that shit. But
yeah, the pre-order stuff is almost its own thing, but it sucks that now pre-orders are tied to DLC.
pre-order culture is a big thing.
Right. Yeah, it's like you have to pre-order to
Marketing.
get the cheaper version of the DLC. Even though if you do it later, you're gonna pay more. You know what I mean? Fuck that, dude. Like, ugh.
And then there's season passes, which might not come with everything.
Right, season passes to the things like I think that there's an I guess there's a comment, right, that I'm gonna bring up. I just remembered the whole night incident with me. Is it worth mentioning the boom of Fortnite? Is it even fair to the conversation to bring it? Because do you think they actually have hacked their way into being popular because of how they offer content and how often they do, based on cultural, you know,
You mean like as a lifestyle game?
I guess maybe
Yeah,
it,
like-
it was because it jumped on the battle royale trend at the time, because like PUBG was kind of popular, and then there was Fortnite, which wasn't even a battle royale game yet until they added that mode in, and then that's where like it really focused on that, and then it put in the battle pass.
Right, but also the things like they do balance changes every week. They release content every week. They listen to the community. Again, I don't play battle royales. I don't play Fortnite either. They have season passes for people who want to support.
Right? No.
They have there's a way to gain inside currency to get skins. You can buy skins directly. The game is free and the game is accessible, right? Mechanically, it's like a Kirby game, right? Mechanically, everyone can play it. But to be really good, you can be really good at the game, and if you put the effort and you have the skill, you know what I mean? But the thing is, like, there's also the level of, that's why it's even fair, like, to even talk about it, the level of accessibility, and, you know, as a business, is a formula that is designed to work, right? Regardless of, like, yeah, sure, it's gonna die, you know? Everyone thought Team Fortress wasn't gonna die, right? Or
Dude, I
let's say,
fucking love Team Fortress 2, man.
the
use
thing is,
Team
like,
Fortress
it
2.
doesn't matter if we love it
I-
or not, but I'm talking about the scene, right? I'm talking about, like, StarCraft 2, nobody thought StarCraft Brood War was gonna die even when StarCraft 2 came out, right? For example. The thing is, like, do you think, like, do you guys think about, you know, bringing them into a conversation, you know, the communication with the gamers, with the users, from the developers, releasing content weekly, having a fair, you know, balance of what you pay for money if the game is free, because I understand also releasing for free and making money, because I play Warframe and I have seen how it can be done well, right? What do you guys think about that?
I think it's time for gamers to rise up.
Rise up, gamers.
Rise
We
up.
live in a
Rise up.
society.
The most
We live in a
oppressed race.
society.
We live in a society. There's
We live in a
people in
society.
the world, okay?
The
What do
most
you guys think?
oppressed race of all.
Is the gamer race.
You
This
don't
is a
see
compli-
SJWs,
I mean, we've been beaten down by the anti-consumer objectives of these companies, and I don't want to sound like Sargon of Akkad here, but you know
Oh my
what?
god, that's a deep
Gamergate
reference.
2, I'm gonna send an email, all right?
Yeah. I feel like marketing, PR, and politics in games could be like another topic for later. Because like I'm not sure like how comfortable everybody is with that. You know, I know everybody's kind of on a different level with that.
It's
But-
spicy, very spicy, but actually.
Yeah.
It's a very spicy. Okay, it's hotter than a
As-
ghost pepper.
As for DLC, you know what? You shouldn't be buying DLC unless it's on sale. And these big AAA games, I'm not even buying them on launch anymore. I'm waiting 3, 4, 5 months out, and by then they've already released their first wave or 2 of DLC. And then when I go and buy the game and that season pass for the game, it doesn't feel like a waste because at least I'm getting something. You
Right.
know.
Like even
I-
waiting for the definitive edition, I think will be fair if they keep doing it. Like not buying the first version and waiting for DLC. Even though I do hate that.
Find it,
That's
find it so
hard. That's hard to. You can only have a good answer with hindsight. And Lee, you got it. Go.
I was okay. So MX, you keep mentioning like you'd rather just wait for the definitive edition for them to release the game with like everything. Like that idea feels like so like hard for me to stomach, right?
Mm.
And
Tell me
if
more.
only because like I get that like the game is going it can possibly have like more DLC in the future. Sometimes like the DLC being made comes like after the fact from like the developers work. Like sometimes it's teased but it could still be in development, right? So and releasing the product like immediately doesn't hurt anything, like because you have the option to purchase it later. You know, like
I think it hurts multiplayer.
But they just want to make
games
a cash grab, like real quick while they actually finish the game. And that's why most games, big games now release, and they're actually good 1 year after because they just release something, they rush
but
it.
sometimes the DLC isn't like that much like it isn't worth delaying like a game for to get it into a complete product. Like you brought up Bloodborne as one of your examples, right? Like the base Bloodborne game is such a complete game, and the DLC for that only adds like maybe like what 15% of the 15-20% of the main game.
It
for that
is, and I
example?
actually agree with the Bloodborne case.
Right.
I will say, the only time I would ever really buy like a definitive edition or like a complete package kind of edition thing is if I'm not familiar with the game in the first place. Like I hear about a game like later on, and then there's a that has all the stuff in it. So yeah, I would get all the stuff in it. I mean, it's like what happened with when I bought Sleeping Dogs because it had a definitive edition, and I enjoyed it a lot because it had like all the stuff in it in the package.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a decent game too.
So Slum, you mentioned you pretty much sworn off DLC, right? Like more or less.
Yeah, it depends.
All right.
Like all my answers are like it depends because I judge value on video games based on the time I can put into them.
Okay.
And
That's
I'll tell you
understandable.
that for Assassin's Creed, I put in 163 hours of playtime.
Okay. The first
Playing
one?
through no, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, sorry.
Okay.
Mhm.
So a game that's super current, AAA, has DLC, has a season pass. It's got
Uh-huh.
all the bells and whistles. It's got has the Ubisoft chart. It's got it all. You know.
That's the chart.
Yeah.
Chart. Do I need to bring the chart again?
I paid 45 or 40, close to $50 for the gold edition, which was $70 normally. Okay.
Mhm.
I got my money's worth out of that game. For
Okay.
real.
Yeah.
And I got the DLC, and I'm not ashamed to say it.
Okay.
But like DLC that I bought that I'm ashamed of.
Probably more so than the one that you're proud of, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
I think
I
That's-
guess it's a
that's
it's a lot
hard
about
one.
value.
I'd have to think about it, but
If you love the game, like
there are games.
okay.
yeah, I guess if with my argument, I wouldn't have bought Smash DLC, and I did, right?
You
Right.
wouldn't have. Okay,
Like-
see, I find it. I bought the DLC for Smash.
No,
I was like,
I did, but the thing is, that my argument actually is inconsistent. Then, right? The thing is, like, I guess it's just, as you say, it depends if it has value for me, and I think the game, I'm gonna be played the game right later, and I
Right.
think I love the franchise or things like that. The thing is also there is a way to do DLC right, which Nintendo has done with a lot of games I just mentioned before. You Splatoon. Go ahead, Lee. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, I feel like a good amount of this whole, DLC debate depends, like, well, obviously on, like, if the content is substantial, right? If it merits, like, the weight, the resources, and all that. And another is also based on, like, I guess, like, how the company handles it, so to speak. And I wanted to say a couple of examples of how DLC was integrated into games poorly. One of them is Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Half the roster was locked on DLC for the disc on launch. And you flat out couldn't play as these characters because of that. And that was a very poor business practice, like, to me, Another interesting case, and this is related to both Halo and Destiny, actually. The DLC for those games lock you out of doing modes that were priorly, I think that's the term, available in the game. So for Halo 3, that's the one I had the most experience with, you flat out couldn't do certain matchmaking modes once some of these maps came out because they were in the rotation. And to me, that's pretty unethical to be able to remove content that was previously there, because the company is saying, if you don't do this, you don't have access to those things you had before. And that's really scummy.
Yeah. I think Call of Duty and Battlefield suffer from that a little bit, having mixed DLC stuff with the playlist.
Right.
I'd also like to add that, like, I forgot my example. But I know, I think it was Destiny, but, like, there's some games where, like, you need the DLC to play the DLC. And, like, I think Sims 4 is, like, a big example of that, too.
Destiny's like that, yeah. You need the all expansions of the first Destiny 2 to get Forsaken, actually. You need to buy everything together. Oh, my God.
That's clumsy design.
Oh, God.
The best example of DLC that I've seen so far is the idea of Shovel Knight DLC. And I say this because prior to Shovel Knight Treasure Trove being released, and this is going to tie into the whole rather waiting for like a complete edition thing that you mentioned, because this is relevant. So so for those who bought the original version of Shovel Knight back on Wii U or whatever platforms it was available for, Yacht Club made a promise that if you bought the game early at that time, you would get all future DLC without having to pay anything else. And the interesting thing about that is, one, that rewards legacy players, which I think is very good, because that gives incentive for buying the game early, supporting the devs early. But later on, they also made a deluxe version of the game. They upped the price by, I think, like $10 to reflect one of the extra campaigns, not both of them. And they did that, and so the only version you can buy is the complete edition. To me, I think this is fair, because it's kind of like upping the price in like a manner that makes sense to, with the new content involved. But there was also that benefit for like the game being out for so many years and just rewarding those players who initially bought that before. And in addition to that, if you only want the DLC campaign, you can buy that separately as like a standalone game.
Right. Yeah, I think if developers are smart about it and respectful, right, to bring fairness to it, and even like con all the troubles I had with Hollow Knight, which I still think is an amazing game, $15 for all the content they provided is actually a good value, right? We're talking about value, I guess, right?
Right.
And fairness, you know what I mean? But I think, so any closing point, guys, before I think we have reached our mark? It's going to be 1.5, 3 hours. Or you guys have any points that you...
I'm done, man.
I guess maybe just one
Been
subjective opinion about pre-order. Like, I rarely pre-order, but because I'm like really picky with like what games I do pre-order and whatnot. But essentially, usually whenever I pre-order something, it's like near the day it's supposed to launch, because like I tend to like constantly look at just things about the game, gameplay and footage, and just see things before, just to get an idea that, okay, this is gonna be a cool game. And like I did that for Alien Isolation, I did that for Resident Evil 2 Remake as well. So just going on that kind of gut instinct, like I know I would wait for later with a sale, but sometimes just that little instinctive thing comes in, and it's like, gotta get this game, you know. It's a little bit of that hype in there, but
Yeah.
like I try not to pre-order like way before. You know, I only try to pre-order like when it's close to the release date, just to like look at all the gameplay and see how it looks beforehand.
Yeah.
Cool. Lee, any closing thoughts? You good?
I think I'm good. I feel like I
Okay.
cohesively mentioned everything.
Yeah,
Okay,
same. I'm good. This has
I'm
been
good to
fantastic,
go.
man.
This was
Um,
fun.
Guys,
I love this.
so thanks a lot for joining me on the podcast, MacGyver and
welcome.
Slum. Thank a lot for putting the time to go through the trouble, to the pain, you know, of going through the
Planning
script. And
phase.
always thanks a lot for to Lee. We're gonna get to I wanna get to the promos in a bit. Actually, I'm gonna say chat if you guys have any specific questions about you know, for you know, the co-host or the guest. You can do it now. Now is your time. You know, you can ask specific questions about, you know, whether they stream, what do they think about X and Y, and I'm gonna meanwhile
Hey.
I'm gonna go I'm gonna go to chat and I'm gonna actually thank individually whoever showed up. Adrillian, Slumdor is right here with us, right? Not a
You
hacker
know it.
99. I think we got a thank you Visco for the raid, and thank you Soso for the raid too. I want to say Rohan K99, thanks a lot. Vince
Shout
Nitro,
out to Rohan.
shout out to
Shout
Rohan.
out to Soso.
Vince Nitro, thanks a lot. I'm gonna get to Vince Nitro. I'm gonna mention Vince Nitro again in a bit. Ember Birdie, Classic Juke, thanks a lot for your comments. Adrillian for being super active, and you know, my dear mod linking my commands tomorrow. Also, I mentioned Not a Hacker 99, 1999.
Shout
Yes,
outs to Tom. Shout outs to Hacker. Those are my boys, by the way.
your voice, nice.
Yeah.
Got the Blue
Um,
crew here.
Yeah, I think yeah, thanks everyone for the comments. Let's see, I'm gonna reach down again. Question from Dream Hero 357: how are you guys on the same string in different locations? Is there a specific software that you're using? I'm familiar with OBS as of like tonight. Great question, actually. I can answer that. There is this website app that is called appear.in. Appear, like appearing.in, that you actually can get a free account, and you can get 4 people at the same time. We just have an overlay on top. It's actually very handy. You can pay for an upgraded account to actually expand the room size to 12 people, I think. And we're actually running audio through Discord for the first time, because audio bitrate on Discord is actually higher quality.
Also, we're
and
not sponsored by the site. Just want to put that out there.
we're not a
No
sponsor. I just think it's
No
the most
sponsor.
useful thing. And Skype sucks. And the thing is, like, Discord is actually pretty
Never
good, but the
use
thing is,
Skype.
like, never use
Use
Skype. It's an
Skype.
actual virus, so delete it if you can. So
$1
the way
fee.
Discord
It's
works
actually
is that
built into Windows as a service now. By
I know.
you got dabbed on. I'm
Uh,
actually kind of buzzed right now. By the way,
lit.
shout outs.
And I think so. Yeah. So the way Discord handles the video is that it actually switches the big screen to whoever is talking, and I think that doesn't look aesthetically as pleasing. And I think this format gives everyone the same amount of presence and value.
You can see
know,
my
like,
weird faces that I make when people are talking.
right, which is great.
And you can see whatever I do.
And yeah, actually, I'm gonna keep going a little bit. If more questions appear, then we're gonna tackle them. But thank you for your question. I'm gonna
Shout
actually
outs to Hacker.
shout outs to Hacker. I'm gonna say, okay, so I wanna go one by one. I wanna give you guys room to, you know, promo whatever you want on whatever you have. It can be your stream. It can be, you know, if you have a you know, side project or whatever. This is your opportunity to, you know, to tell everyone what you do. I'm gonna give the floor first to the Slumlord.
Oh shit! I'm first. Oh.
Honor's yours, man.
Fine.
Yeah.
Count.
I mean, you know, what can I say? I like to have fun. I like cracking jokes. I like making fun. I'm a pretty nice guy. I always, you know, if I got a good roast, I'll probably follow it up with like, dude, I'm sorry, bro. You know, but I don't know, man. I
Good
just,
Samaritan.
it's been a lot of fun kind of doing something new here today. And that we we talked a lot more kind of behind the scenes, and I almost feel like that conversation that we were having there was somewhat a little bit better than what we had here, but maybe that's just me reminiscing on yesterday.
Yeah, I think there's like obviously, guys, we rehearse a little bit some stuff. Also, we go to subjects, but yeah,
was something else.
Yeah,
and,
it was good.
It transferred into today, but it's been a lot of fun here. And if you like just, I don't know, gaming, hanging out, I like to play a lot of games with people. I like to form smaller groups, communities. I don't know. Always been a social butterfly somewhat, I guess. But yeah, if you like, I just do variety games. I've mostly been trying to focus on GameCube right now, and yeah. If you want, hit me up on the follow, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just been, I've had a lot of fun so far.
Adrian,
or maybe
can we
I'm
get
kind of drunk now that I'm 3 beers in.
Can we get a shout out for Slumlord right now, please? Thanks a lot, Slumlord. I'm very happy you actually agreed to be on the podcast. Sorry, talk show.
Talk show, yes.
Podcast, talk show.
Yeah. And I'm happy that I love your stream. I think you are fucking funny as fuck, and that's why I wanted to have you too. Not as a comedic relief, but I'm glad you came. I'm glad you came.
I did my hardest not to talk, because even where I work, I tend to talk over people somewhat, especially when
spicy?
when it gets spicy. Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
I'm a little bit in the same boat too.
Yeah. I think we all do.
I work in IT. I do a lot of programming and coding, and when people aren't talking legit, I might tend to call you out. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm the same way. Actually. I like being super direct and honest, actually, which is I think it can be a blessing and a curse, as you know, right? Yeah. MacGyver, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
All right, so I definitely had a great time here. I've never done a podcast like this before.
Talk show, by the way.
Really awesome to do this. Thank you so much, Lee, for introducing me to MX and to Slum. So you guys have been awesome to talk to. So it's been great. So just to sell out a little bit, basically I'm a small variety streamer. I tend to play like single player games mostly, sometimes like a multiplayer thing once in a while, but I tend to just be kind of a chill person. I try not to get too frustrated or really competitive in games, because it's not really my thing to get like angry on stream. I mean, yeah, I get frustrated sometimes, but I know when to like stop, though Resident Evil 2 remake can sometimes piss me off, especially on hardcore. Yeah, I'm a little bit quirky too. Like some of my humor just comes from just some spontaneous random thing I think of right then and there. But I try to have fun and have a chill time. Unfortunately, these days I am pretty busy with college because I am in film school. I'm especially learning sound, so I'm getting into a lot of like the sound editing, sound mixing. So I'm enjoying that area. I have an internship actually with the gaming program at my college. So I'm actually sourcing, editing, and mixing for video games starting tomorrow. So that's gonna be fun. Yeah, I'm not sure what else. Hey, this has been a great time.
That's good. So, thanks a lot.
Feel free to invite me back anytime.
Yeah. MacGyver, I met you through Lee, and I think you seem like a pretty chill AF. I think you bring the voice of chill to the conversation, so 100%. That's good. Thanks, Adrian, for the shout out for MacGyver. Lee, you go.
Thank you so much, Adrian.
Hey guys, I'm just Lee Belmont, your noble vampire hunter, and I'm super happy to have been on the talk show with Max, MacGyver, and Slumlord. This was really cool. I actually got to meet Slum for the first time not too long ago. It's been a really cool experience, and I'm happy that I was able to bring along MacGyver for this, because this has been really fun. As for what I do as a streamer, I do quite a bit. So I speedrun a new game every Monday, and like a completely like a game I've never like speedrun before. I do casual playthroughs and I do writing streams too. So we got hardcore, casual, and creative all in one boat. And I am a writer. I do have like website Den of Reads, and I'm a pretty chill dude. So
Lee, always excellent co-host. I love working with you. I hope we do more of this, and which gives me to my next thing. I'm gonna say a little bit more about me, but this podcast is mostly I always have said that, hey, I'm not gonna try to, if I'm gonna do something in Twitch, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna try to, instead of joining a community, make my own community. And it's by I do need to do a little bit extra effort of going out of my way to find smaller streamers. But the thing is, like, I think we all can do it. We're definitely
That's
here
hard to do because there's so many.
It's a lot of work.
yeah,
it's a lot of work.
It's tough. It's like picking friends. And I understand that.
Right.
It can be rare too. Like, I met Lee through this like indie game that I was invited to play, and well, it wasn't the best indie game, but yeah.
I met MX through another stream. It's just Twitch networking at this point.
And I do love finding. I think that's part of like why I enjoy, why I keep doing it and haven't given up. It's not that I have thought about giving up, but I think it's just like in the beginning I was like, hey, I do this because this is what I do. I play games every night or whatever. But actually, there's a part of me that it says, if I'm gonna do something, I want to do it my way. I'm gonna do it right. And part of that is creating this community. So that brings me to my next point: is that, guys, this podcast is for the smallest streamer out there, and we all know the struggles of being a small streamer. And is to basically the purpose of the podcast is to bring all these communities together, so more people know that there's like good streamers out there that are funny, that or that are like. They have their own content that can be your taste, and this I guess is a better, easier way, or a new way to find new people, which is basically what I do it. And I think it's fun also like meeting new people and dealing with new people too, because right without losing your shit. No, but anyways,
I'm a handle. What can I say?
What can I say? You're welcome.
Unfortunately, I end up getting too busy with what I do side of my stream, and then I can't devote my time to doing other things.
No, but I do appreciate. I know everyone is super busy. I have said before that I do appreciate your time, and it takes a little bit of organization. I remember the first podcast was like Lee was like, oh, but we need to write a script, like where we're going to start talking from.
Sorry, fam. That is not me. I off the cuff, and that's why I was like, yesterday's conversation was. I don't know. That's just how I am though.
Yeah, like the thing is like
we do it
in the
live.
In the beginning, that was my attitude. It's like, you're just doing live. Let's just go for it. You know what I mean? But I'm learning also from doing this that there are some things that require structure and some things that require organization. There are obviously gives and takes, like pros and cons of it. But I think we all just gonna get better. The more we do it. And
structure an agency.
I'm MX. I started streaming because I started like modding Game Boys. I have an Etsy shop which I mod Game Boys and sell, and I do custom orders. I actually then started streaming retro games in general. I did like Nintendo, puzzle, Metroidvania stuff. I play big games here and there, but again, I like the podcast is a new thing from this year. I want to build more community, and my Discord is there for everyone too. I have auto notifications when people go live. I have auto switch roles when people are live, so people can find. Again, it's all about the community, so people know where to go and who to watch. Like, it's a way to find that. I offer other type of content like mini reviews, like a social feed. I do giveaways and things like that. But yeah, like, everyone is welcome to join. Everyone is welcome to please follow MacGyver, Justly, and Slum. They're super awesome. And I stream Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays. Super chill. But thanks a lot, everyone. So a couple things before leaving. I didn't see any new questions, but I want to actually. So next podcast is March 11th at 9 p.m. EST. Right, episode 3 is coming. It's gonna be super awesome. We have already we have people locked down, so Again, it's gonna be great. More conversation, new topics, and things like that. If you want to join the podcast, just join the Discord and let me know. We can arrange it. We can talk about it. It's gonna be great. I remember last podcast, MacGyver wrote in the chat, "Yo, I have a lot of things to say." And it's like, "Yo, let's talk." And there you go. You have MacGyver in the podcast now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, so today's music, there's two people that I want to thank. First of all, and again, since it's from the community, by the community, there is this viewer that I had that I think Lee and I share, and most people here, is called Vince Nitro. Is actually the music that you're listening right now is from him. And I have this copy that I need to say. Okay, today's music was brought by you. Okay, I'm gonna start again. Okay. Today's music was brought to you by Vince Nitro. If you like his music, you can check out his work on True Crime Podcast, The Trail Went Cold, available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or his SoundCloud, vincenitro.soundcloud.com. Vince Nitro, I love your music, and I asked Vince Nitro personally, like, yo, I want to have your music in the podcast. Also, there's music that I had also from DJ Codman, and DJ Codman is a known mixer, and he makes chiptunes and things like that. I love his music too. I think it fits well with the podcast. But Vince Nitro, thanks again. Always appreciate it.
Can we get a link to the SoundCloud in the chat there, please? Sorry,
yes.
I clicked his Twitch and hey, thank you.
You're welcome. Actually,
Because
nice thing
you know what,
that you reminded me.
We haven't been able to hear the music this whole time.
Right.
And,
so I was the only one on my end.
Listen.
Since it's like playing from my side, it's like a lot of lo-fi. He does a mix, but it was more
And
lo-fi
that's like
music. Super
what
dope.
I'm looking for.
Chill as fuck. Again, the next podcast, Monday, March 11th at 9 p.m. EST. Thanks a lot, everyone, and have a great night.
Night.
Take care.
Is not a narcotic.